I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair. He did what? Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the bomb!
And here we go.
oh yeah!
The kick, and here it comes. Swing and a miss! Swing and a miss! Swing and a miss! And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books. The celebration is on. The Washington Nationals are the world champions.
You golden blank staggered black skeleton and blinkety blank punk are you trying to do? Of all that low dirty...
Johnson is three-point territory, but guarded tightly. Johnson cuts left, now fires a three. It is good, and he's fouled. It counts, and he is fouled.
Do you believe it? He did what?
Good morning. Welcome to the Taco Tuesday edition of a Snowman in the Morning. You can follow along with us on social media by dialing up SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. You can also log on to Snowman Digital Media for all of our great conversations from this show, as well as others produced by Snowman Digital Media. This is the best sports talk show you haven't heard of until now. You can hear us every Monday, which is today, through Friday on all of our great stations and networks in the region, across the nation, and around the world, and across the internet. And the podcast version of this here show will be available right after this show is completed. You ready to get into it? Good. Let's get started. I know you all saw the first two episodes of The Last Dance, and that's where I'm going to begin the show. And I'll bring in my good buddy Sharif Ahmed of Sharif Ahmed Sports Talk to help break that down. And plus, we got a little something else to get into in terms of the NBA. How you doing, my man?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Sunday night was The Last Dance premiere. And as much disdain as I had for that four-letter network, it was absolutely fantastic because it gave you the framework of what Michael Jordan and the Bulls put together in an 8-year run with their dynasty. Of course, Michael retiring, then coming back and doing a second three-peat following the first one. But I'm glad they went with the framework and showed what it took for the Bulls to get to where they rose to prominence in 1991. And yes, I'm going to tie in a lot of LeBronomaniacs also, because there was a picture that came out that showed MJ and Scotty with a losing record and also a losing playoff record. And that one playoff win, I want to say, was 88 when they beat the Cavaliers in a five-game series, went the full 5 games. And you said this on my show many times. We've talked about it off the air. What people don't understand, and I will say it till I'm blue in the face, what LeBron has not had in 17 years, MJ has had every year since his sophomore year in high school. Progression. The Bulls had progression all through the Jordan dynasty. It's not a Jordan era. It's a Jordan dynasty, just like the Showtime dynasty and the Bird dynasty with the Celtics and the Lakers, respectively. Please put this to rest. MJ, for me, was the greatest player I ever saw play, period. And that's nothing to disgrace Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, or anybody that preceded MJ. Hell, my first favorite player was Julius Erving. But when Michael Jordan showed up in 1984, he had all the parts. He just had to learn to put them together. And that, to me, Sharif, is the biggest difference between MJ and LeBron.
Absolutely correct. And the one thing is that no one puts into consideration is the fact that Jordan played college basketball.
Yes.
And when Jordan played college basketball, he was in North Carolina, Dean Smith, and to me, all sports across the board, the 80s was the greatest decade in sports, baseball, basketball, whatever. But that's a whole different discussion.
That's an unfiltered That's an unfiltered conversation for us for my podcast to kick off the summer.
Correct. But the thing is that Jordan was mentally, physically, emotionally prepared for the NBA. Mm-hmm. My favorite part was how when Jordan broke his leg, and when Jordan broke his leg, they were putting him on a minutes restriction. Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Yeah, I totally remember that.
The thing is that LeBron has never really had been injured, other than that. I think he injured his groin or his hamstring last year. That was his only major injury.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the physicality of the game is so much different now.
It is.
There is no physicality at all. And to go back on what you said about progression, teams had to evolve because of the style of play back then.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that that's how the progression happened. Every single team that's won a championship had to get over a hump.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can go, for example, the Pistons, all back in 86 and 87, they always got stopped by Boston.
By the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, if it was in the first round of the playoffs one year, the following year they met them in the second round, and then the last time they met them in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then finally on the third or fourth time, the Pistons got over the hump.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Pistons had their 2-year run. Then here comes Chicago with the Doug Collins Chicago Bulls. It took Jordan, maybe 2 years from 88, 89, 90, 91. Those seasons right there, it had to take him those years for him to get over the hump against the Pistons.
Let's go back a little bit. When it came to the battle with the Detroit Pistons, it actually took MJ 4 tries to get past the Pistons, because 88, which was Doug Collins' I take that back. Second to final year for Doug Collins. 88, they lost to the Pistons in 5 games. 89, which was Doug Collins' final year as a head coach, lost to the Pistons in 6 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. So it went semifinals, East semifinals in 88, East finals in 89, East finals in 1990, which was Phil Jackson's first year as head coach. And remember, there was a big thing that Phil Jackson wanted MJ to do, and that was to trust his teammates. And he started doing that in 1990. And the other thing about that, they lost in 7 games. So you had to figure one of these times the Bulls were going to get it right. And come 1991, they did get it right. Again, outlines that progression. Now, if you want to take that and compare it to LeBron, let's do that. And I'm using strictly his finals appearances from 15 to 18. 2015, you lose to Golden State in 6 games. 2016, you beat Golden State in 7 games, but there's a big fat old asterisk next to that, and you know why, and you also agree why, and we'll hit that in a moment. 2017 and 18, you win only 1 world championship game in 9 tries. 1.
It's look, man. I have a cousin who's a big LeBron fan, and he had the audacity.
Oh no!
The audacity to post that Jordan got swept in the first round of the playoffs. Now, that year that he got swept, they got swept by the '86 Celtics. Okay,
one of the greatest teams to ever put them on.
I would put the '86 Celtics as probably the top. I would go as saying top 5 greatest championship teams ever assembled.
Agreed.
Ever.
Agreed.
So this man goes into back then when it was a best of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes in game 1 and scores. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he scored 61 the first game.
49.
In game 1.
49.
Excuse me. 49 was game 1. And then game 2 was the 61 pointer, correct?
63 in game 2.
63 in game 2.
And the anniversary of which was Monday, folks. April 20th, 1986. April 20th, 1986 was the anniversary. 34 years ago was when MJ dropped 63 on the Boston Celtics. And by the way, I'll say this, and I know I'm going to get a laugh out of you, and I'm going to anger a lot of LeBron fans by saying this. If LeBron was so great, he would have busted that record. He hasn't done that, has he?
He has not. He has not done that at all. And the thing is that he wants to be looked upon. LeBron wants to be looked upon as a guy that carries the team.
Yes.
But he does not. But here's what credit is due. Ray Allen hit that 3-pointer in Game 6 against my Spurs, and then of course that, and it killed the mojo of the Spurs, and they came back and won Game 7.
I so wish the Spurs would have won in 2013. They're one of the teams
I
follow.
Too.
They're one of the teams I follow religiously. I so wish they would have won in 2013.
They could have, but the thing is though they didn't, and the thing is that it's all done now. But then Kyrie Irving hits that jump shot to win that game against the Golden State Warriors.
Don't remind me.
I understand, but the thing is that Jordan has always had. Scottie Pippen and Jordan were connected to the hip. All through the years, and a lot of people don't. And people need to remember, Pippen was drafted by Chicago. No, Pippen was drafted by Seattle, then was traded to Chicago.
Yeah,
and Horace Grant came in that same year
in
that draft. So those guys, Horace was there for the first 3, but Pippen has been there for the entire 6.
Yep.
And that is that core. Does LeBron ever had a core?
No.
And here's the thing I want to throw this at you, and I've never told you this, and I'm going to tell you this. The one person I blame for this LeBronism here is the owner of the Cavaliers.
I'll agree with that.
Here's why. On the first Cleveland run, Cleveland could not get past the Celtics.
No.
Couldn't get past them. LeBron decided to stay in his option year. He could have opted out the year that they lost to them in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Right.
He could have, but he chose to stay because Dan Gilbert promised him that he was going to get help. And the team that he had, and the only thing I'll give LeBron credit is that team was atrocious. And he single-handedly carried that team all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. And the basketball gods took away a Kobe LeBron final.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, it was Boston and the Lakers final.
A series I enjoyed.
Correct.
Because it's the Celtics and Lakers, okay? It's the Celtics and Lakers, all right? You're old school like I am. I've had so much pushback when I say I'm glad that LeBron didn't make the finals the year 2008, I believe, when the Celtics played the Lakers in the World Championship Series. Do you know how many side eyes I get from LeBron stands with that? And the reason I'm bringing all this up, folks, is because I'm sick and tired of the pushback when I compare MJ and LeBron and use facts to do it, and my guests do the same thing. And this series, The Last Dance, that takes you all throughout the Bulls dynasty, is, I'm afraid. Well, MJ said that he's afraid that the document will paint him in a bad light. I tend to disagree. I think it'll just show the competitive nature of not only him, but of Scotty and the rest of the Bulls that were with him during that ride. But you know as well as I, all these LeBron stands are going to use any factoid they can get their hands on and just put it out there saying, see, LeBron's better than MJ. Okay, prove it.
There's nothing. The proof is already in the pudding. You cannot elevate a player at the caliber of LeBron is at right now. Because we can all agree, at the end of the day, he could be top 10, top 15 of all time.
Yes.
There's no argument there.
None.
But the thing is that you cannot put a player with a losing record in the NBA Finals over the only thing he has on Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, is the fact that he passed him on the points list.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But Kobe has one fistful of rings.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan has a fistful of rings and a thumb.
Yep.
But Jordan is 6-0. Everyone wants oh, that's all you got? Proof is in the pudding. He's 6-0. He got to the final 6 times, won 6 times.
Isn't that the idea?
So the thing is,
isn't that the idea to get to the World Championship Series and win the thing?
Yes, but here's another nugget here is that LeBron has never played with a coach. Never played with a coach that can literally get in his face and tell him what he can and cannot do.
True.
The thing is that LeBron is in control of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Every team he has played on, a coach got fired.
Yep. Well, except
with the
one.
Exception of Tyronn Lue.
No, Eric Spoelstra. Spoelstra's still with Miami.
And Eric Spoelstra, yes. Well, Spoelstra's still employed. And the reason why Spoelstra is there is because he tried to do the same type of shenanigans after the 2013 finals and try to do the same crap that he was doing before.
Yep.
But the Mafia Don, Pat Riley, had to come from the offices and had to check him. That's what it is.
Pat Riley wasn't having it, which is why Pat Riley is still employed by the Miami Heat, and LeBron had to go home and wreck Kyrie Irving's house. Oh, did I say that aloud?
Yes, but the thing is that that's what he does. And people are going to say, well, Magic did it with Paul Westphal, but then he stayed with Pat Riley 4 titles later. Then Doug Collins.
Listen, I'll let me knock that argument down, and I'll assist you in knocking that argument down. Well, Magic only had Paul Westhead for 1 year. That was Jerry Buss's decision. That wasn't Magic Johnson's decision. Okay? Get it right, folks. Jerry Buss said Paul Westhead would not get us to the next level, even though Westhead did win in 1980. You got to remember, the Lakers lost in a miniseries to Houston in 1981, and Jerry Buss had enough.
Yeah, I said corrected. I said Westfall, but it's Westhead. My bad.
Yeah, Paul Westhead.
Yeah. And another thing, too, the coach fractured the locker room. Mm-hmm. Westhead fractured that locker room. Kareem wasn't having it.
Magic
and you can't piss off Kareem.
Yeah, Kareem was the captain. Kareem was the captain. Kareem was the captain. And if anybody had everyone else's back in that locker room in 1980, it was Kareem. And Kareem didn't even play Game 6 of the World Championship Series because he was injured.
He did not. Yes. And that's the thing is there has never been a coach that had pedigree. But when Phil Jackson came in, he didn't have that pedigree. He developed that pedigree as he was coaching Jordan, then Kobe and Shaq.
Coaching the teams, yes.
Yes.
He developed that pedigree. Yeah. Thank you.
And then he was the one that told Jordan, you need to use these other pieces around you. Mm-hmm. If you don't use these pieces, they don't work. Because listen, John Paxson, 1993. Steve Kerr, 1997. I'm trying to think of the guy. Oh, man, you're going to laugh at this name. 1992 finals against the Portland Trailblazers. A dude named Bobby Hansen came out of nowhere. He came off the bench. Yep. The guy never saw the light of day of playing. Phil Jackson put him in there in the triangle, and he was just dropping jump shots. And
He made one. Bobby Hansen made one shot that entire series, and it was Game 6 where he got the Bulls rolling to come back from 15 down at the start of the fourth period. That's the only shot Bobby Hansen made the entire series, and it was one of the most important shots in the Bulls dynasty.
But the thing is that LeBron would not do that.
Nope.
LeBron doesn't have. The thing is that you. Okay.
This is why this is why I saved you for this morning, and this is why I cleared. This is exactly why I cleared the time, especially with Sunday night being the premiere. Beg your pardon, of The Last Dance, and what I said before with reports coming out that MJ would be afraid that this would paint him in a negative light. I wouldn't be afraid of that. If it does, it does.
No.
MJ's legacy is sealed. It is signed. It is sealed. And, baby, it was delivered to Springfield, Massachusetts, okay? It was delivered.
The only ones that will be offended by that are the ones that have never seen him play either live or on television.
Right.
They're the ones that are going to be offended by it because they're the ones that are following that all of started watching basketball when LeBron back in 03, 04.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are going to get offended. But the thing is that what Michael Jordan did then, and if LeBron were to do it now, it's politically incorrect. It's not politically incorrect. The thing is that it's competitiveness. And it wasn't just Michael Jordan. Charles Barkley did it with the commercial says, "I am not your role model."
Yep. Magic.
That was that era.
It was the most competitive era of basketball. And those of us who watched it were right in the middle of it. Okay?
And it was, yes.
It was
You're absolutely correct.
What's the old commercial? NBA action? It's fantastic. It most certainly was.
I mean, I'm just so frustrated is because they don't want to see what greatness was before. Magic and Larry were great before Jordan.
Yep, they most certainly were.
Jordan came in right in the middle and the latter half of their careers, and then it rolled right into the Jordan era.
Mm-hmm. And
so
remember,
we can sit here and say
there were three major players in the NBA when Jordan showed up in 1984: Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Julius Erving.
Yeah, and Julius Erving was in the not twilight, but he was at the tail end of his career, but was still relevant.
Man, please, Julius was more than relevant. Okay.
No, but I'm talking about then that era.
Right.
I'm not talking.
Understood.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he was. No, Dr. J is is up there, but I'm saying when Dr. J. I mean, when Michael Jordan came in, when Dr. J was still in the league, Dr. J retired, and correct me if I'm wrong, was it 87 or 88 he retired?
87.
And Jordan came in 84. So there wasn't, that was right at the end of Dr. J, but then it transitioned to Magic and Bird, and then from Magic and Bird, it transitioned to Jordan.
Mm-hmm. And when the NBA moved from CBS to NBC, for me, that officially signaled the Jordan era. When they moved from CBS to NBC, because CBS had Abdul-Jabbar, Julius Erving. It had a piece of Michael Jordan, but it had Larry and Magic and Kareem and Dr. J. When it transitioned from CBS to NBC, and of course they had the Bad Boys, CBS did. But when it transitioned to NBC, it was the running of the Bulls all day long.
Yes, it absolutely was. And I just want the NBA to come back. I really do. I mean, it just needs to be put to rest. It needs to be put to rest. This is ridiculous. Is that all these millennials and these LeBron? I call it LeBronomania, man. It's just like Hulkamania. It's like LeBronomania.
But see, Hulkamania was actually more than tolerable. Hulkamania was fun to watch. LeBronomania ain't that fun to watch, and I put it out there, and I was bold enough to put it out there several times. Speaking of putting it out there, he's going to join me a little later because I got something else to put out there. For right now, I'll be back in a flash.
Insanity ensues.
Are you kidding me?
You're listening to the Snowman in the Morning podcast.
Can't wait.
Welcome back to the program, and I want to welcome William Morgan into the conversation. How are you, my friend?
How you doing, man? How you doing tonight?
Been a while. Good to have you on.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's get into it. I've had so many people get mad at me, and you know where we're going to start. I dropped a podcast last week with a friend of mine breaking down LeBron James's game from year 1 to year 17. And people got butthurt about it. Why do you think that is?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm serious, man. I'm serious. I never denied the fact that LeBron is a great athlete. I've never denied that. I just piss people off when I say his game is incomplete, and it's been incomplete for 17 years.
And I think the thing that makes people upset is the fact that you bring out the truth. It's the fact that his game hasn't evolved.
No.
His game hasn't evolved from year 1 to year 17. Let's go back and look at other great athletes. They had to evolve their game at some point to continue to play at a high level.
Absolutely.
Look at Michael Jordan, for example. He came up with his mid-range game.
Mm-hmm.
He developed that because he couldn't keep going to the hole the way that he was. The Jordan rules prevented him from doing that, so he had to develop that mid-range game.
Right.
When your game doesn't evolve, you leave yourself a focus of criticism. And is LeBron all world when he's driving to the basket? Sure.
Yes.
But when it comes down to people pack the paint in the middle, and that's the one thing people give Giannis credit for. He's developing a jumper. He's at least shooting more. So even if you pack the lane, he can still kill you. You don't see that from LeBron on a consistent basis. You also don't see the fact that his defensive game. And yeah, he's 17 years in the league, and I understand that part. But his defense has never been subpar for maybe the last 3 years. He's never been a great defender. He's never been a great off the ball defender.
No.
So when your game doesn't evolve, you leave yourself out there. And not any athlete, be it NFL, be it NBA, MLB, when you have a weakness in your game and you don't address it, you leave yourself a target for criticism.
And two things LeBron has not addressed in 17 years. And I've said this on my program. You've been on the program with me where I've said this. The two things that LeBron has not addressed, and I don't think he never will address. Number one, a consistent jump shot. And number two, he can't make free throws in the clutch. And I'll give you a third one, his footwork. Notice all the travels.
Oh, yeah. And understand this, too, but here's the thing that makes me upset with LeBron. He's a what? He's in the 70s in terms of percentage for shooting free throws.
74%.
You should be around 80, 82% shooting free throws. That's where you should be at the very least. If he were also another knock that you can have against LeBron, even though you said he'll do it more this year before the season got cut off, his post game. You haven't really seen him use the post game.
Can I get a witness?
You've seen him do it more this season, but primarily you haven't seen him really develop that post game on a consistent basis.
But he doesn't have the footwork. He doesn't have the footwork to have a post game. He travels 90% of the time. He also flops 90% of the time, but that's a different conversation for a different time. James Harden, hello. But anyway, LeBron doesn't have the footwork to develop a post game. And I hate, you know what? I'm really going to make some people angry, but I'm going to compare him and Kwame Brown in the same sentence, and I know Stephen A. Smith will get a kick out of this one day.
Kwame Brown.
Yeah. Yes, I had the nerve to put LeBron James and Kwame Brown in the same sentence for this reason and this reason only. LeBron doesn't have a post move that he can commit to memory, like a fadeaway jump shot like Michael had in the post, like a hook shot Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had in the post, like an up and under like Kevin McHale had in the post. Same with Larry Bird. But when you're 6'9" and 270 pounds and you're built, well, I can't say it the way I want to say it, but you're built out of a piece of granite, you would think that LeBron would have at least one post move that he would commit to memory. You would think he'd have one.
Exactly.
He doesn't have one. He can't back anybody down. He gets the ball easily taken from behind, which brings another point that I made during my criticism of LeBron, and let's just go ahead and say it that way since people want to say I criticize him. Yes, I criticize him. Here's another problem that I have with LeBron. Why doesn't he have a left hand in terms of his dribble?
You know, that's true. That's true. Look, and everything that you just said is a fair criticism. And the thing I think, so here's something. My main sticking point with LeBron, on top of the weaknesses, he makes just getting to a successful point acceptable. Even though you lose when you get there, he made this get to the acceptable point acceptable. Like people come up and say, "Hey, he took a team of scrubs to the finals. He didn't win, but he took them to the finals." And people are saying, "At least he got there."
You know, I thought the point, and Cole said this on my program. Many other people have said this on my program. Hell, a couple of ex-NBAers said it to me offline. And off the air. I thought the point of getting to the World Championship Series was to win the damn thing.
Exactly.
He made it acceptable to get a percent.
That's like going to the job and never getting the interview. I mean, you know.
Right. That's like he made it. I'll put it another way. He made it acceptable to get a participation trophy, even though. And I'm looking at 2017 and 2018 LeBron, okay? He made it acceptable to get a participation trophy even though he got his ass kicked by the same team in the World Championship Series.
Oh, yeah.
You want to look at the fact that he dropped a triple-double. Do you know those numbers? Do you know half of those numbers were bloated? Because the Warriors were busy kicking his ass for 5 games in 17 and sweeping him in 18.
Yep.
And people want to make the argument. Hey, here's the crazy part. People want to make an argument, and I will give you the floor on this. People want to make an argument that LeBron should have been the MVP in 2015 and 2017 because he was quote unquote carrying the team. The floor is yours.
How? I don't get that. How? Carry what team? Oh my goodness.
You and I think too much alike, okay?
How? And I was going to say, I think the most interesting thing that I found about LeBron James is his favorite football team. And correct me if I'm wrong. His favorite football team, I believe, is the Dallas Cowboys. The 8-8, 8-8, 8-8, 8-8, 8-8.
The 7-9, 8-8, 6-10, 5-11 Dallas Cowboys. The Tony Romo-led Dallas Cowboys. The post-Jimmy Johnson Dallas Cowboys. Because I'm sorry, Barry Switzer coached Jimmy Johnson's team to a Super Bowl when he won Super Bowl 30. Okay, that was Jimmy Johnson's team. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And people seem to forget, little football note here during our NBA chatter, people seem to forget the first year Barry Switzer took over the Cowboys, he got blasted in the NFC Championship game by my beloved 49ers. Okay?
Sure did.
Sure did. Sure did.
That would be 1994. Let's get back to some hoops. The difference between Giannis and LeBron, Giannis is starting to fix what's wrong with him. And I've said for years that Giannis Antetokounmpo couldn't shoot. ... until now. LeBron James, from the outside now, can't shoot consistently. That's been one of his biggest problems. And people don't want to look at that.
Nope.
And what people don't realize is that the biggest weakness of Michael Jordan was the fact that, guess what? He didn't have a jump shot. James Worthy said it. Dean Smith said it. But you know what MJ did? Something LeBron didn't do. He took his weakest point and turned it into a strength.
Yep. Amen. Amen. And I hope the Shannon Sharps in the world. I hope I hope if you're listening, because as much as I love Shannon as an NFL player, as much as I love him on the mic, the thing that you have to understand, Shannon, about your man LeBron.
Shannon's the biggest LeBron stan I know, besides a couple of other Bronomaniacs that I've spoken to.
Nick White up there, Colin Cowherd's up there.
Oh God. Why'd you have to cuss on my show? I already cussed once.
But all three of them guys are in the same boat. Mm-hmm. And look, I'm not saying LeBron isn't a great athlete. I will never say that because he is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But he's the most. And let's also talk about, when we talking about a weakness, let's talk about mental toughness. See, people don't understand. If LeBron was all that, he would have willed those Cavs teams over the Warriors. If he was that great, if he was so mentally tough, he would have willed that Heat team to beat the Mavericks team
in 2011.
Little J.J. Barea would beat him up.
J.J. Barea killed him. Jason Terry killed him. We're not going to talk about the rainbow Dirk Nowitzki hit over him in Texas. As a matter of fact, if LeBron was so great, and I am going to put one hell of a conspiracy theory out there. Of course, a lot of people would think it's a conspiracy theory. But if you go back to 2016 and think about this really, really carefully, if LeBron was so great, he wouldn't have had to dry snitch off the court to get Draymond Green suspended for Game 5 because, Draymond Green was locking him up.
Yep. And the only team that you've seen that he has had any consistency of doing anything against the Toronto Raptors.
That's it. And to a point, the Boston Celtics, if you go back to his Heat days. Mm-hmm. But anybody else, listen, don't bring to me that LeBron beat the Warriors by himself in 2016. He got a hell of a stimulus package from Adam Silver and company because his Cavs were terrible. Okay, there shouldn't have been a game 6 and 7. It should have ended in 5, but Adam Silver succumbed to the LeBron curse. I said it, and I'll say it again. Adam Silver and his constituents succumbed to the LeBron curse.
I'm going to take it another direction. If it wasn't for Ray Allen, if it wasn't for Kyrie Irving, it would be what? 1-8 in the finals?
1-8. So Kyrie and Ray Allen had to save his bacon in the World Championship Series. And on both of those occasions, he was either tied in the finals or, listen carefully, he trailed in the finals because he trailed 3-2 to San Antonio in 2013. It was 3-3 when Kyrie Irving hit the championship winner in 2016. People want to bring to the people who really watch basketball with a very critical eye, that, Michael got help too. Here's the difference. When Pax closed out the Lakers in 1991, the Bulls were up 3-1. When he got some help, in 1992 from the bench mob, they were up 3-2. When Pax closed out the Phoenix Suns in 1993, they were up 3-2. When Steve Kerr hit the game winner in 1997, they were up 3-2. And when Jordan himself closed out the dynasty in 1998, the Bulls were, you guessed it, up 3-2. Large difference.
Yep. And there's people who come at me with a lot of this LeBron stuff, talking about he never played with a great coach. You could have played with a great coach, but you chose to go to the Lakers rather than go to the Spurs and play with Pop. So don't give me that he never played with a great coach, because he could have played with a great coach.
Well, he made a great coach, Eric Spoelstra. Eric Spoelstra gave LeBron two things he has not accepted since he left Miami: structure and a rigid schedule. Structure being the main thing, because Eric Spoelstra laid the law down when he said, I'm the coach and you're the player.
Yeah.
LeBron didn't like that, but he dealt with it for 4 years. And many people have said to me, and I am inclined to agree, that during those years is when you saw the best of LeBron. You saw the absolute best of LeBron when he was in Miami, because Eric Spoelstra put his foot down.
But even in Miami, he didn't do anything by himself in Miami.
No.
You had D-Wade, you had Chris Bosh, Ray Allen. I mean, he didn't do anything by himself in Miami.
No, he didn't. He didn't. That's what people don't get. That's what people totally
really
don't understand.
There has to be no one wins a title by yourself. You may lead your team, but you don't do it by yourself. And LeBron is included in that fact, that he didn't do anything by himself.
The playoffs were to have started this weekend. And I miss him, but we hope everyone is safe in dealing with this coronavirus pandemic. And B, the silliest thing came out last week, and I know you saw this article, that a champion that is to be crowned in the NBA would come down to, God help me, a vote.
I saw that foolishness. I saw that, and that is so wrong, because if you give it to the team with the best record, you're looking at the Bucks.
Yeah,
I would. If I was the Bucks, I wouldn't want that championship. I want to go through the best to get there.
I want to play for it. I want to play for it. I would want to play for it and show people how good we have gotten, because the Bucks were running away with everything. But honestly, if I were to pick a champion that, and as great as the Bucks have been this season, I'd still have to lean toward Toronto.
You could make an argument for that, because they're your defending champions coming into they were your champions coming into the year. So you make a case.
The biggest case I can make for Toronto, even minus Kawhi Leonard, is the fact that they've stayed consistent. They were not doing well at the top of the season, and then they rattle off 14 straight wins, get themselves back into the Eastern Conference race. Milwaukee and Toronto were 1-2 before the season was put on pause.
And you're defending champions, which I can't stress enough. They're your defending champions, so they lose it. So you can definitely make a case. If this is going to come down to that vote, definitely make that case.
Can you make a case for the Boston Celtics?
No. And the only reason why I wouldn't make a case, here's the thing to me with Boston. They're the team that's just good enough to get to the playoffs. But they don't have that power to go any further than that.
Yeah, I
They're
agree
too
with
small
that.
of a team. I couldn't make a case for Boston.
I know a team neither of us would make a case for, and that team is Philadelphia. And there are too many holes in that team.
Too many holes in that game. Yeah, one of those boys got to go. Embiid, Simmons, one of them got to go, and then you build your team around them because those two playing together, it's not working.
You want to know my idea? Send them both packing. Pick a new franchise player, because Embiid has had so many chances to take charge of that Philadelphia team, and he hasn't. Ben Simmons has had chance after chance to take charge of that Philadelphia team, and he hasn't. And there are 2 of 4 players on that squad being paid $100 million over the course of 4 years. Cut your losses and go.
I'm telling you, if Ben Simmons don't watch out in terms of not improving your game, like LeBron has improved his game,
he's going to go by the way of LeBron. He's going to go the way. He's going to go the way of LeBron, and
he gonna go.
And I will say this: the biggest free agent coming up this summer, and this is the last point we'll discuss before we go to a break. The biggest free agent this summer is not who you think it is, folks. And I'm going to surprise you when I say this name. The biggest free agent this summer, once again, is Anthony Davis.
Yep. There's reports out here saying that he's selling his house, or he sold his house in LA. So yeah.
And I think Anthony Davis is out of there. I think 2 things. And if I'm wrong, I will happily put on this headset and come in front of this microphone and say that I'm wrong. 1, Anthony Davis is out of Los Angeles. And 2, I think Anthony Davis is going home. I think Anthony Davis is headed back to the Windy City. There are too many signs. There are too many signs for me. And yeah, call me a conspiracy theorist if you must in this case. But think about the free throw he made to win the All-Star game in Chicago and the ovation he got.
I think the thing for AD, if he went to the Bulls, with the way the Bulls are trying to restructure everything, trying to getting rid of Garpax, going the route of rebuilding that front office, Zach LaVine, Kobe White, that might work. Now, I don't know, because that was being rumored before earlier in the year. I don't know if it happens, but if it does, and they can get a good draft pick, a good 3, that could work. That could work.
Because your point guard of the future is already on the team, and that's Kobe White.
Yep, you got Kobe White already.
Kobe White's already there. Kobe White's already there. Now, Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen have voiced their displeasure and saying if something big doesn't happen, they're going to leave. I don't expect them to leave, especially now with Garpax being gone and then having a new GM in place.
Yep.
And they're looking for a VP of basketball operations to be in place.
And I know Michael Finley was the last candidate they talked to. I would be happy with that.
Yeah, I'd like that. But my thing is, once again, I think Anthony Davis is going home. And home is Chicago.
He very well could.
We'll have to see what happens. The next time I'll have this man on, we'll review the first part of The Last Dance. That'll come later this week. This is William Morgan, the man in charge of the Sports Report. And you're giggling just as much as I am because, and again, call me old school, but who's doing the documentary? What 4-letter company is doing the documentary? And
ESPN.
And my critical sound is consider the source. I'll talk to you later this week, my friend.
I'll talk to you, man. Thank you for having me.
I'll talk to you later, buddy.
You have a good night, man. All right.
More after this.
Insanity ensues.
Are you kidding me?
You're listening to the Snowman in the Morning podcast.
Can't wait.
A lot of people know me. Know I'm a big fan of women's basketball. And I've been a fan of women's basketball for quite a while. So when I introduced this young lady who was the ACC tournament most valuable player this past season, and there's just so many records to list, I would just only delay the moment when I am proud to say, please welcome to the program from North Carolina State University and a hopeful WNBA prospect, Ace Koenig. She joins me right now. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing good. It's, well, except for the fact that this coronavirus has shut everything down, it's crazy.
I know. It's being cooped up in the house, especially with no basketball to watch, is difficult.
Yeah. How difficult is it? You're a hooper. You've been a lifetime hooper, and there's no basketball on to like take your mind off of everything. I know that's got to be tough.
Yeah, we're starting to get creative in the ways we entertain ourselves. You know, there's lots of working out, but you know, doing playing board games and trying to watch as many shows as possible just to get the day going a little bit.
Yeah, it's really tough with everything going on. Tell me about this past season for North Carolina State. Very special season for you guys. You're the ACC tournament champions, and then just when things seem to get on a roll, and this happened to a lot of teams, the coronavirus just shut everything down. I mean, what's that do for your momentum?
We were really excited, especially coming off of that ACC championship. Like you said, we just thought we had a lot of potential and a lot of basketball left to play to show off that potential. We were a young team and we were really hitting our stride. So we were super excited to be able to go into the NCAA tournament and hopefully make a deep run. And, we were heading into practice to prepare for the tournament when we found out, and we weren't allowed to practice because the ACC had said, the coaches aren't allowed to host anything. You guys need to go home. But as a team, we decided to stay and hosted our own little practice without the coaches there and scrimmaged for a while to say our goodbyes. And we wanted to have a few moments of Reynolds Coliseum.
I think I know the answer to this question. Was it tough saying goodbye to your teammates with everything being on hold and being up in the air?
Definitely, because you don't really get that same closure. Usually, there's a game and you either coming off a win or a loss, obviously, but you have that travel back, then you have the rest and let go slowly. But instead, it was kind of like campus is closed, everybody needs to go home. You don't get that closure because suddenly everybody is scrambling to get home, and all of a sudden you guys are all in your respective hometowns without really the chance to have had that closure.
Yeah, and the closure has got to be the toughest part. Again, mixing in the season finish, you guys winning the ACC tournament, looking to make a deep run. Your name pops up in the WNBA draft, and you don't get drafted, which kind of disappointed me because I was looking forward to your name being called, but it wasn't called. What would be the next step for you?
It's definitely a different type of scenario than people are used to, especially with pandemic. You don't really have any solid answers right away because you're not sure when you're going to be able to go places and whether or not leagues are going to start up again. So right now we are focusing on finding me the right fit overseas, finding a team where I can really grow that skill set and be ready for whatever opportunity I get in the WNBA when it presents itself. There's always injuries. There's always unfortunate circumstances. And it's just about being physically fit and prepared to take advantage of those opportunities when they come.
One of the best three-point shooters in the ACC, Ace Koenig, joining me right now. Who are some of the players that you look up to in terms of how you shaped your game?
There's so many fantastic players. I actually grew up in a family of basketball players. So my very first role models were my aunts and my uncles and my mother and father. So those were the very first people before I even really knew how big a sport basketball was when I was just a little kid. Those are the people I got to watch day in and day out play basketball and do well at it. So they would have to be my first role models. And then beyond that, you look to the pros. Obviously, the greats like Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi definitely would shape that. But I'd have to say my all-time favorite basketball player would have to be Magic Johnson.
Wow. Now that's a role model. You mentioned two others, Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi. What do you take from their games, and what do you take from Magic's game to shape into yours?
Sue is the type of, and Diana are players that know how to win and will do anything to win. And it's that fieriness and that dedication to the game that I get from them and their performances. And then obviously Magic, just having fun with it. He was the most exciting player. I did personally get to watch him. I was a little young, but being able to look back on his games and when they air them on TV, he was just the most entertaining person to watch. You could never guess where he was going or what he was thinking. And that's what made basketball fun at a young age. And I think that he would just shape me and showing me that it's about enjoying yourself too.
Are there any NBA players that you look at now to try to get a little bit more help in shaping your game?
You know, you look at all of these fantastic players. You look at Steph Curry and LeBron James and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and they're all fantastic. But at this point in my life, I'm trying to emulate the greats on the women's side more so than anyone. And right now, if I had the opportunity to play underneath some of these fantastic female players in the WNBA, the Courtney Vandersloots, the Sue Birds, that would be the most exciting thing for me, because, you know, I'm trying to be where they are, and they've shown day in and day out that they deserve to be there.
One of the players you mentioned is a player that I used to cover for the Chicago Sky, Courtney Vandersloot, a very, very, very good shooter. But if you could have a one-on-one with a WNBA player of your choice, or 3 separate games with 3 separate WNBA players, who are those players and why?
You know, I would have to say it had to be Diana, just because she's going to beat me. She's too good. But being able to play defense against her, learn and study what she's doing from actually being in that moment, that would be so incredibly exciting. It's kind of like when people say they would go and play one-on-one against Kobe or Michael Jordan, and, you know, they'd lose every time, but they made them better. That's something that I would relish.
Man, it's great to have you. Ace Koenig, one of the sharpest shooters in women's basketball. Man, if you hadn't had a chance to see her play, look up some highlights, and I am personally looking forward to following your journey wherever it takes you, and hopefully it brings you back to the WNBA. Thanks a lot for coming on. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Got more stuff for you, folks. Stick around.
can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy un smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair. He did what? Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah! The kick, and here it comes. Swing and a miss! Swing and a miss! Swing and a miss! And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books. The celebration is on. The Washington Nationals are the world champions.
You golden blank staggered black skull and a blinkety black punk are you trying to do? Of all that low dirty...
Johnson is three-point territory, but guarded tightly. Johnson cuts left, now fires a three. It is good, and he's fouled. It counts, and he is fouled.
Do you believe it? He did what?
Hour 2. Hour 2 of this Tuesday extravaganza begins, and I want to thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget, you can find out everything that's going on with Snowman Digital Media by logging on to snowmandigitalmedia.com, and also follow us on Twitter using the ID at SNW Digital Media. Speaking of transitions, and there's a lot of transitioning going on with one of my parent companies, which I'll drop another hint about during hour 3. It's time for Transition Tuesday, and Russ Williams has now joined me, and he's mobile this morning. This is weird because I usually catch him when he's standing still, and this morning he's mobile. What's up, man?
Yeah, how you doing, Snowman? I am mobile. I'm on my way to the supermarket, during this pandemic here. Yeah, in this epicenter here in New York. So I'm mobile. I'm trying to get to the supermarket nice and early before it gets really busy.
Yeah, before the madness happens. Thanks for chiming in as always. All I have to say is 3 words: The Last Dance. And you gave me that subject over the weekend, and I said we have to hit that. So I'm going to give you the floor, but I'm going to give you the floor right now.
Cool, and it's funny too, Snowman, because the last time I was on, I guess the ESPN execs, they listened to the Snowman in the Morning show because we were talking about it, saying, "Hey, look, you need to move this up since we're in this pandemic. So you guys need to move it up." So they're watching, they're listening, Snowman. They're listening.
They're listening, man. They're listening, and the first 2 episodes Sunday night. Unbelievable, and it gave me an even deeper look into what was going on with the Bulls, both positive and negative.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I really like how they really told a story from the beginning perspective, because the big excitement is, this document is out, but it really did a great job. Those first 2 episodes are like really shaping the story, what's about to come, like the story of Michael Jordan, how he was able to develop that killer instinct, with his brother and everything. So I think ESPN, they did a great job with those first 2 episodes, shaping the story and talking about things that are about to come. So I think they did a good job thus far.
Yeah, I did. And why did The Last Dance give you the idea for this Transition Tuesday?
Well, I tell you, because for me, we're going to be transitioning to 10 episodes. But the thing for me is what gave me the idea, some steps to take when you're transitioning from episode 1 and 2 to 3 and 4. So that really gave me some perspective to talk about give me some game plan steps. And the one I really want to talk about here today, Snowman, was this game plan step is going to be important. what happens is during this time, you should really give yourself permission to travel back in time. This episode, this what's going on now has really given me the opportunity to really talk about some things on it. Can you hear me, Snowman?
Yeah, I got you. You're doing great.
Oh, okay. Okay, hang tight for a second, Snowman, because my apologies. Okay, there we go. All right, you hear me, Snowman? I'm sorry about that.
I got you.
Okay, cool. So, yes, so the first GPS is give yourself some permission to travel back in time, because for me, like, this is really great for me because during that time, 97, 98, there was no such thing as social media. There was no pandemics going on, and yeah, with this here, this is kind of gives you like, especially the way they're breaking it down, it really goes into like the golden age of hip hop. I'm a big hip hop fan.
Yeah.
And I love what they're doing. I was able to travel back in time, listen to Mace, listen to Biggie, listen to Puffy, the songs that they had, like the soundtracks for that day. Eric B. and Rakim, just looking at Michael Jordan with the baggy suits. You remember that time?
Yeah.
With the baggy suits?
I totally remember that time.
Yeah, the baggy suits, the hoop earrings that Jordan had, Ahmad Rashad, all those people had, And it also brings you back to a time of pureness of basketball, in which there were fundamentals were on display.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What was that word you used again? I could have swore you said fundamentals.
Yes, fundamentals, the things that are lacking in today's game.
Man, is that ever the truth?
Yeah, we see that in this documentary. We see the physicality, what went on back then. You don't see that now. It's just, give yourself time to travel back in time. And speaking of back in time, I got a great MJ story. I've had the great pleasure of meeting Michael Jordan.
Wow.
I met him. Yep, I met him with my past employer. I worked. I did the Jordan. Jordan has the Jordan Classic.
Right.
It's a basketball classic for high school players.
Yes.
And my company at the time, we did the championship rings. Each player received the championship ring for the Jordan Classic.
Mm-hmm.
I know during that time, Chris Paul was a high schooler.
Yeah.
And myself and my business partner who you had on the show, Chris Williams, we came and we had an opportunity to meet Michael Jordan. The great thing about Michael Jordan was, he's very reserved.
Yeah.
And I remember putting my hand out to shake his hand, and I thought I was going to get, the classic handshake. But he just gave me the brother handshake. He just dapped me up. He pulled me in, and I was like, wait a sec, this is amazing. I was like, wow. That literally took me totally by surprise. I was really, the perception of Michael Jordan, you can't really get close to him. You got to get past the handlers. But here this guy was, dapping us up, just saying, hey, you guys did a great job on these rings. I love these rings. I want you guys to stay for the ceremony. Also, I want you to come to the game as well. So that was a great thrill meeting the man. So, so when you're watching these episodes, give yourself time, give yourself permission to travel back in time. Especially during the time in which we're living in this pandemic.
I got a Michael Jordan story myself. In 2007, his youngest son, Marcus, transferred to Whitney Young High School, and I was in Chicago at the time. He transferred from Loyola Academy to Whitney Young, and I was asked to be the public address announcer for the home games, which was no problem. And I didn't think MJ would show. I didn't because, anybody who is familiar with Michael, he is indeed reserved, and he's also all about his family. But one of the home games was played at Chicago State University, and I was not the PA man for that game, but I was the play-by-play man for Whitney Young, and I had gone over at halftime. They were playing Hales Franciscan. I had gone over at that time to talk to Dr. Joyce Kenner, who was the principal of Whitney Young. And then all of a sudden, this smooth man with the bald head came up toward me, and I froze. He stuck his hand out, and he dapped me up, and I just about literally melted. I went back to my seat. Paul, my friend Paul, who was my broadcast partner at the time, said, "You're not going to talk for the third quarter, are you?" I said, "Nope." And he said, "I saw the exchange. I saw you shake Michael Jordan's hand." And Paul's cracking up at this time, another native Chicagoan and a very dear broadcast friend of mine. He says, "You're not washing that hand." Nope, never again.
That's right. I felt the same way too, Snowman, on that.
It's like, nope, never again.
That's true. That's true. Hey, Snowman, while you were watching The Last Dance, was it anything like you learned during the episode that you didn't know? Because there was a couple of things that I learned that I wasn't aware of. Well, I wanted to get your take on it.
I got too many takes for it, and it's going to take me the rest of the week. But I will say this: Scottie Pippen was very underappreciated by Bulls management. Not just for the time that they had, not just for the time up until 1991 when he got his contract extension after the Bulls won their first world championship, but he was undervalued and underappreciated for his entire career. I mean, what did you take from it? What did you learn from it that shocked you? Because the other stuff I knew, being in Chicago and hearing some of the reports that came out.
Right. I think the one thing that kind of shocked me was that moment he said his rookie year, going into the hotel, and his teammates were in there with an assortment of illegal drugs and activities going on. That kind of shocked me a little bit. I was really surprised by that.
Yeah,
I was really surprised by that. Yeah. And also, I was surprised that him and Danny Ainge golfing. I was really surprised at that one. Before the game and stuff like that, I was really surprised at that particular one. I know he's an avid golf fan, what have you, but I was really surprised to see that him golfing. That was surprising.
I wasn't. He was an avid golf fan coming out of North Carolina. So I had the feeling it would be, and he said it many times over, especially during the 92-93 season, which led to his first retirement. It's his piece. It's where he could. It's where he could just get away for a while. I've read several books on MJ, and it outlined how close he was with his family, especially his father, and that hits home with me. And how he loves getting away from the game. Yeah, he loves playing it and being around his teammates, but golf's like gets him away.
Yeah, but I was really surprised to see. I mean, you're playing against this opponent, so you're golfing. And I know, golfing, you're really golfing against the course, but, some things are said and some things are shared, especially with your opponent that you're about to play against. I was just a little surprised at that one. I wasn't surprised at him playing golf, but I was a little surprised about the opponent that, Danny Ainge, which he was facing that day. So I was just surprised about that.
Yeah. Well, it's old school. It's very much old school. When you put the laces on and you put the shoes on, your opponent is your worst enemy. But when it's time, when it's time to hang up the laces, at least for the day or at least for a few days, there's some of the best friends off the court, and I can totally understand that. I mean, how do you explain the friendship and the relationship that Michael Jordan had with Charles Barkley for the longest time?
Yeah, yep, that's true. Yeah, that's hard to explain. And like speaking of Charles's. I love the aspect with Charles Oakley. Me being a Knicks fan and how that pivotal trading Bill Cartwright from the Knicks for Oakley, that was a pivotal move by Jerry Krause. Probably one of the most underrated rules because that really got them going. They got the center that they didn't have, and Charles Oakley was like the bodyguard to this day and good friend of MJ. So. Yeah, but that was a pivotal move by Krause. I was surprised by Krause, what he did with that. And,
I can say that's probably one of three moves I will applaud him for, because you played an out-of-date Artis Gilmore at center. His run was done. Of course, the bulk of his run, and I know you remember this, and any old school hoop head knows this. Artis Gilmore's best run not only came in the ABA, but came with the San Antonio Spurs when they merged into the NBA in the late 70s, 1976. And then you had to deal with Dave Corzine out of DePaul, who spent part of his time with the Washington Bullets. And yes, I said Washington Bullets, not Washington Wizards. I still can't get Wizards out of my mouth, let alone out of my head. And you had Granville Waiters. Oh dear God. Yeah, Granville Waiters. Boy. Yeah, Granville Waiters at center up until the late 80s when the Cleveland Cavaliers were drafting Brad Daugherty. Patrick Ewing was with the Knicks. Rick Smits was coming into his own with the Pacers. And, of course, at the time, they also had Greg Dreiling and Steve Stepanovich. Robert Parrish was still hanging around. Of course, you had Charles Barkley, who could play center but played more of a forward. You had Wayne Rollins, Tree Rollins with the Atlanta Hawks at the time. So you had some centers, and the Bulls didn't have one. For the longest time, they didn't have one. So that was one of the three moves that I was upset with because I liked Oakley. I loved Oakley in that Bulls uniform. But I also, at that time, 1988, understood why the move had to be made. The Bulls needed to get a center. And yes, even Bill Cartwright was on his last legs. But Bill Cartwright gave them 5 serviceable years where they were actually able to plug in a center, a back-to-the-basket center, something that's missing in today's NBA, folks. Listen carefully. And, it gave the Bulls the serviceable part that they need because at the time they traded Charles Oakley for Bill Cartwright. They also had Horace Grant waiting in the wings to assume that power forward role.
Right. Absolutely, yeah. So that was pivotal there too. And what happens with another shrewd move, and that reason why that trade was important is because you had the version of the emerging of the center. So Patrick Ewing was an emerging center. So here you have a Bill Cartwright who practiced against Patrick Ewing all those times. So he knew the tricks of the trade about Ewing.
He did.
So, so she comes to Chicago, and that really helped out.
Yeah, it really did. Talking Last Dance here with Russ Williams, the man in charge of Transition Tuesday. We're going to have a lot more on this subject, and I promise you, folks, Transition Tuesday has returned, and it's going to return in full force. And this man will be with me every Tuesday. Man, it's always a pleasure to have you on. I truly appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much, Snowman. I appreciate talking to you as always, man.
I got more for you, folks, after the break.
Snowman in the Morning,
I did not need to be told that.
where true sports talk lives.
Excellent.
Can't wait. Let's take a deep dive into one of the teams that is going to need some help, and that's saying the least about it. To join me to talk about it, one of my good friends, CJ DeSimone, to talk about the New York Jets. CJ, how are you?
What's going on, Snowman? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine, my friend.
Beautiful.
All right, let's dive in. And I'll use a very familiar voice to you. Where do the Jets, I have to do it, where do the Jets start to revolve and repair this debacle that's been going on for 50 years since they won a Super Bowl? Why can't we get back? Where do they have to start, man?
Oh, man. Well, I know how you love setting me up with loaded questions. So, there's about 50 different ways that I could go with that question. But you know what? I'll keep it clean because I know it's a family show. We'll save the cussing and all that stuff for my podcast. But
exactly.
Basically, what the Jets need to do is, in all seriousness, they need to draft themselves a player which they know or they feel in their heart of hearts can be a day one starter who can come in and contribute and really be a building block for the future. Now, that being said, we all go in, all of us as fans, we go in with the thought of who the Jets should select. A lot of attention has been paid to the first round. There's a lot of people who want the Jets to select Jerry Jeudy. There's some that want CeeDee Lamb. There's some that want Henry Ruggs. There's some that want Tristan Wirfs or any one of the top four offensive tackles that are on the board, whether it be a Mekhi Becton. There's a number of different directions where Jet fans kind of have their sights set on. You have a faction that wants a particular player, a faction that wants player B, a faction that wants player C, and no one's ever really going to agree. So it's kind of funny. A good buddy of mine put on, his name is Tyson Roush. He is the co-host of the Let's Talk Jets podcast on blogtalkradio.com. And he put out a tweet today, and I absolutely laughed. I had to contain my laughter because here I am. I'm sitting at the pickup/checkout window for the pharmacy that I'm currently working at. And I had to contain my laughter so much that I actually had to bite my bottom lip because what he tweeted was so perfect. And I don't want to quote it verbatim because I don't remember it verbatim, but essentially he said the Jets could trade up, the Jets could trade back, the Jets could select a player, the Jets could not select a player. Guaranteed, no matter what happens, 50% of Jets Nation will be outraged by the pick, whatever they do. And I responded to him. Well said. And I got like 5 retweets, which I thought was friggin' hilarious because here I am. I can't really say what I really would like to say. Had I been on my lunch break, then that would have been oh my goodness, there would have been fireworks. But unfortunately, I couldn't say what I really wanted to say. But I just thought that tweet was so appropriate because it really tells the tale of what being a Jets fan, the Jets fandom, and the complete divide that is this fan base in regards to players that they select in the draft. And this is because we asked Mike McCagnon to fix this team through the draft. He didn't do it. We asked Mike Tannenbaum to fix his team through the draft. He didn't do it. Okay. We asked John Idzik to fix this team through the draft.
We know the answer to that question.
Draft, he had 12 picks, Brian. 12 picks. Okay, and the only one that's still on the roster and hanging on by a thread is Quincy Enunwa. Okay? So the Jets have had a traditional history of bad drafting, And that is the reason why they find themselves in the position that they're at. Because the next GM comes in, they may come in with $150, $250 million, $200 million in cap space. They start spending like a drunken sailor. The Jets are competitive for 1 year, and then the next year they can't do squat.
Right.
Okay? Which we saw in the Mike McCagnon era.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. John Idzik, unfortunately, we never even really got to see his era get off the ground because I don't think he had a season in which he was 500 or 500 or better.
He didn't.
So that was a complete disaster. And then before him, you had Mike Tannenbaum. Okay? And then before him, you had Terry Bradwell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when Herman Edwards was there. And both of those were, again, hit or miss. You know, so because of the history of just very poor drafting, this is the reason why this franchise is suffering the way it is. Now, that being said, turn the attention toward the number 11 pick. Okay, I've made it very clear on my podcast, Weapons Hot, that I want an offensive lineman with the number 11 pick. And the reason being is because if any one of those top four offensive linemen are on the board at 11, you take them. If they are not, then you take a Jerry Jeudy, then you take a CeeDee Lamb or a Henry Ruggs or whoever else that you have in that particular category. Okay?
Yeah. Here's my question. Here's my question.
Okay.
And I was thinking the same thing that you are, that the Jets need offensive linemen. Because if they don't get any offensive linemen, then Sam Darnold is a sitting duck again.
Exactly.
He's a sitting duck again. So they got to get some linemen.
Right. This is the reason why I argue with people about the number 11 pick. Oh, we need a dynamic playmaker. We need a dynamic playmaker. We need a dynamic playmaker. Okay, guess what? Sam Darnold needs time to throw the ball to this quote-unquote dynamic playmaker that you guys are clamoring for. Okay? So if we go into next season, even though Joe Douglas has, in my opinion, really spent a lot of resources, trying to rebuild this offensive line, he didn't go extravagant. He didn't get. He maybe not have gotten the guys at the top of his list, but he got us very solid, workable players. And I think personally, on paper, compared to what the Jets' offensive line was at the end of last season, to what they look like currently right now, they are significantly better in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if Sam Darnold does not have protection in the pocket to throw the ball, I don't care if you have a wide receiving core that's made up of Jarvis Landry, Julio Jones, Jerry Rice, and Randy Moss. He is not going to be able to get them that ball sitting on his ass.
And that's the point that people miss, who have these high profile quarterbacks, and we can both admit there are some teams that have them and some teams that don't. And one of the teams that has a high profile quarterback who's been protected is my beloved 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo, which is one way I think they're going to lean in the second round, which is for an offensive lineman. But with the Jet, when it comes to the Jets, what do you do? Oh boy, I can't believe I'm going to throw this question out there, but I better throw it out there right now. With the fact that y'all need an offensive lineman or several offensive linemen very badly, where does Le'Veon Bell fit in this picture?
Le'Veon Bell fits in that picture exactly where he is, in the New York Jets backfield. Because if the New York Jets rebuild that offensive line, Le'Veon Bell is going to be a beneficiary of having a much better offensive line, which will be able to open up holes for him, which means he will be able to be a lot more dangerous than he was last year.
True.
Because there were times last year where we watched Le'Veon Bell play and had to single-handedly drag the New York Jets offense by himself, playing behind let's wrap your head around this now, Brian. I know I'm going to throw some big numbers at you. The 32nd ranked offensive line in the NFL.
Yep.
How many teams are there in the NFL?
32.
32. Right? The Jets were ranked dead last. That's how bad our offensive line was. And I still point home because there are people out there that still just don't get how bad the Jets' offensive line was last year. Okay? Trevor Siemian almost got killed.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Falk almost got killed.
Yep.
Okay? And and look, I'm even going to throw this out there too, because there was something that I saw a couple weeks ago, and as a matter of fact, there's a fellow Jet fan that I go back and forth with. I'm not going to say his name on the air because I don't want to embarrass anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But look, for someone to say to me that they don't think that Sam Darnold is a franchise quarterback, look at his stats and that they think that he's no better than Mark Sanchez was. Okay, look. First off, time out. Okay? First off, okay? Mark Sanchez does not get mentioned in the same breath as Sam Darnold. No. That's number one. Okay, they may have gone to the same school, but Mark Sanchez played behind the number one ranked offensive line in the NFL.
Yes, he
where
did.
Sam Darnold is playing behind the 32nd ranked offensive line in the NFL. So if you take a look at Mark Sanchez's stats versus Sam Darnold's stats, Sam Darnold is considerably younger, has had considerably less starts than Mark Sanchez.
Yep.
And still is a productive quarterback with a trash offensive line in front of him. Okay? Can we say that Mark Sanchez has had a career I think his career percentage is probably I would have to say 50%, like low 60%. Now, mind you, I'm guessing. I don't have any of these numbers up in front of me or anything, but Mark Sanchez walked into a situation in which he was handed the keys to a fully functional football team, which made back-to-back AFC championship games at that time. You put, I'm going to put this out there, and I don't even care. You put Sam Darnold on that team in 2009 and 2010, when the New York Jets went and played under Rex Ryan back-to-back AFC championship games, the Jets win one of those two Super Bowls that they miss out on.
I believe it.
I will come out and say it. Because Sam Darnold is a better quarterback than Mark Sanchez, even though Mark Sanchez is the franchise leader in playoff wins. Okay? He has better mobility. He has better pocket presence. And believe it or not, from his rookie year to his sophomore year, playing behind, in my opinion, a worse offensive line than he had in his rookie year, took a step forward, despite the hindrance of not having the protection around him. And despite not having a lot of weapons at his disposal.
True. Yeah.
Okay?
Very true.
So this is again why I go and I kind of get beside myself when I look at Jets Twitter, I look at Jets Facebook, and it's very entertaining at times. But then there are also some times where I have to pull the gloves off and I have to say, okay, let's be a little bit of the voice of reason here, because you've got one end of the pendulum or the other end of the pendulum. So that's where I'm at. As far as the Jets draft is concerned, I'm looking for pieces on this team with Joe Douglas at the helm that he's going to be able to piece together a competitive and sustainably competitive football team, not just this year, not just next year, for the next 5 years. Now, you and I have had this conversation both on the air and off the air.
Yeah, we have.
What's the difference between the Jets and teams like the Ravens, teams like the Steelers, teams like the Patriots, teams like the 49ers? Every single year, their compatibility, the ability to be competitive, they're always in the playoff mix, and they sustain it.
Yeah.
Why? Because they've got a solid core of players. They interchange some players here and there. They bring in a couple of free agents here and there. Free agency is used to tweak different positions that maybe need a little bit of a lift.
Yeah. Not
to build the foundation of your football team. Your football team is built on the foundation of your draft, your core players. Okay? That's the difference between pedigree championship football teams and the New York Jets.
And it's always going to be that way until the Jets grow a set and actually draft the core pieces in place that they need to. They have one with Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold only looks as good as his offensive line. Conversely, on top of that, Patrick Mahomes just looks as great as his offensive line. Jimmy Garoppolo looks as great as his offensive line. Sam Darnold playing behind the 32nd offensive ranked line in the NFL, that won't get it done. That's why Jet fans are truly upset, because they look at Sam Darnold's numbers, and this is what makes me different from a lot of other sports talk hosts, and you the same way. I use my eyes. I don't use the numbers. The numbers will come and go. The numbers will come and go. Okay? I would rather use my eyes and go off of what I see, which is why some people hate my opinion of LeBron James, but that's a subject for another discussion. But at the same time, I'd rather use my eyes and go off of what I see and not use the stats, because Jets fans, and you and I have talked about this, man, use stats to compare Sam Darnold to Mark Sanchez, and that's a critical error. Sam Darnold still has room to grow.
Right, they do. I mean, there are Jet fans that compare Sam Darnold to other quarterbacks, not only in their division, but also around the league. And look, to be honest with you, it's kind of unfair to put Sam Darnold in that light at this moment in time, because I feel personally that the Jets haven't done right by him.
Right.
Because his first year, he was there with Todd Bowles. They had a plethora of offensive line injuries. They still had offensive line issues. Okay. Last year, the offensive line was a mash unit. Ryan Khalil, who was talked out of retirement by Joe Douglas, basically came here and robbed the Jets for $6 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because he just had so many issues being on that offensive line. Okay, and then the offensive line itself was a mash unit that Sam Darnold played behind. Sam Darnold throughout the entire season last year played behind 9 different offensive line combinations.
Yeah.
In a 16-game season. They had 11 different starters
on
that
offensive line. Yep.
And when you don't have the cohesiveness, when you don't have guys that are playing with each other week after week after week, there's chemistry issues. There's communication issues. There's assignment communication issues. There's blocking issues. Okay? And Sam Darnold, unfortunately, and also Le'Veon Bell to an extent, essentially suffered because of that.
Yeah.
If you fix that problem, then the offense can do what it's supposed to do. Then you can start building out. Your war, every war that you play on Sunday,
it's going to be in the trenches.
You have to win the battle of the trenches.
It's going to be in the trenches. Yep.
Right. It's basically your fat guys versus their fat guys.
Yep.
And your fat guys better be better than theirs.
Which is why the Ravens and the 49ers led the NFL in rushing. They were 1-2 since week 1. Since week 1, it was always the Ravens and the 49ers who led the league in rushing. They led the league they led the league in rushing. And people want to tell me, A, they got there. B, you wonder how they got there. How about the fact that the 49ers hung 200 yards on the Green Bay Packers running?
Mm-hmm. Right. So, and mind you, one of the things that I always still argue with people when it's like, the NFL is a passing league. The NFL is a passing league. Yeah, but guess what sets up the pass?
The run.
The run.
The run. The run sets up the pass. It's been proven time and time again. That's exactly why the Chiefs and the 49ers got to the Super Bowl. And unless I see different, I won't be surprised if they have a rematch in Tampa. To say it's been horrible would be a horrible understatement.
No, it's miserable. It's not been horrible. It's been miserable because basically you have the Jet fans the diehards that they go regardless of the weather. They tailgate. This is something that they look forward to. and they're paying money. They're paying tens of thousands of dollars for PSL tickets to go and watch to watch a product that couldn't beat a high school football team.
Right. Even with a 2 out of 3 on WFAN a couple of times. It could be it could be 2 out of 3 and the Jets would lose them because they haven't built their foundation.
Exactly. And this is the reason why, I crucified Mike McCagnon when he was here for criminally neglecting one of his missions in the offseason. He had said, I want to build a wall around Sam Darnold. I'm rebuilding that offensive line. And so, he didn't have to go out and break the bank and get, flashy names, like a Joe Thuney or a Jack Conklin. Okay. He got high-level B-tier guys. They're blue-collar lunch pail guys. They're going to come to work every day with their pail. They're going to grind. They're going to work hard, and they're going to give you everything they got. And that's all that you can ask them to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all you can ask.
No.
The podcast is Weapons Hot. This is your host, CJ DeSimone. I may have to finagle something where I have him on each week to talk Jets and talk football with me. Great to have you on again, pal. Appreciate the time.
All righty. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the opportunity.
More, I say, after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
I haven't had many folks here on the show from fullpresscoverage.com except for Mike Debate, and we talk general NFL. But now we're going to get a little specific, and we're going to talk my favorite team, the 49ers. The man in charge of Full Press 49ers is on with me right now. This is Ryan Adverdorada, and he joins me right now. How are you, my man?
I'm doing great, Brian. Thanks for having me on today.
Do you know how sweaty I was the night of the Super Bowl, and we were up 10 against the Chiefs, and the back of my mind was saying, I have a feeling Patrick Mahomes is going to do some Patrick Mahomes stuff?
Yeah. So I was sitting on my couch, did not move from that seat, and when Sparrowsmore had that interception, I wanted to, normally any game I'd be like, that's it, that's the nail, we're done, I can start celebrating. And I just sat there waiting. I just wanted to get it under, 2 or 3 minutes. Just give us 10 points with a 2 or 3 minute lead, and we're good. And as the Chiefs offense just started going, I just sat there quietly. I didn't say anything.
Same
I
here.
just had that feeling of like, is this going to happen to us again?
Yeah. Where do the 49ers go? Which way do the 49ers lean with the draft coming? Because my thought is they go defense to replace DeForest Buckner. And the fellow I had in mind is Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina. Which way are you leaning in mocking the 49er draft?
Honestly, I mean, that would be a great pickup for them. I mean, Javon Kinlaw is a tremendous talent coming out of a very, defensive rich conference in the SEC, and he stood out. Now, it's a little tough sometimes to just look at it because, you think, okay, you got rid of DeForest Buckner, and you're basically using that pick that you got for him, and you're just basically drafting his replacement. Now, the biggest thing that I see is, Buckner seems like a guy who probably is, this is just from looking at the tape so far, just someone who strikes me as a little bit more athletic than Kinlaw. But that's not that too much of an issue. I think Kinlaw could lean out a little bit more, become a lot more disruptive in the pass rush. But I mean, if you go with him there at 13, that would obviously, fill in that hole that was left there. And people were talking about, well, what about someone like DJ Jones or anyone else filling in for Buckner? Those guys are not those 3 technique guys that Buckner was. Eric Armstead can fill that role in, passing situations, but he's not going to be there during rundowns. He's going to be on the outside, in base formation. So Kinlaw would make sense for me. Obviously, a lot of other people are also clamoring for one of the receivers, whether that's CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy or Henry Ruggs. I personally would love to see them trade down even just a few spots. And even if it's just 1 or 2 spots I think they can still get someone like Kinlaw. But quite frankly, I mean, Kinlaw, the closer I get to the draft, the more and more I think they're going to pick Kinlaw. As much as I would love to get someone like Henry Ruggs with his speed or CeeDee Lamb with just his ability, or even Jerry Jeudy, it's just they can find someone later in the draft. This wide receiver class is so deep, and they can probably find someone in rounds 2 through 5 if they can trade back and pick up some picks.
And the receiver I had mocked for San Francisco later in the draft, and this name just flashed across my board, so I did some quick research on him. Denzel Mims out of Baylor.
Yeah, that's actually a very good pick there. If they were to get someone like Mims, I like him. He's very athletic, obviously. Now, what he doesn't have in the route running, I'm not too worried about. I mean, because let's be honest, someone like Deebo Samuels wasn't known as a prolific route runner in college,
right?
And we have, the 49ers have someone in Kyle Shanahan who will get you open. I mean, he doesn't necessarily have the best route runners on that wide receiver, even in the tight end group. I'm perfectly fine with saying that, someone like George Kittle is not an expert route runner by any means, even at this point in his career. But yet that guy finds ways to get open, and he'll scheme them open. And we just need guys who can basically make plays and who can do things one-on-one. And that's, that was really the biggest issue even in the postseason. And we saw that in the Super Bowl where it became, just let's just target Deebo Samuel. And I think that's what kind of became an issue late in the game was the Chiefs were able to take away, one or two weapons and just say, okay, well, beat us with everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I think, Denzel Williams is definitely someone, I honestly could see them also if they were to trade back from 13 and just get a bunch of picks for, the second through like third or fourth round, even picking up another receiver, maybe someone else, maybe in the mid to late first round. If they traded back there, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's just a lot of wide receivers that are available. I really like Mims. I'm a big fan of Jalen Reagor. Just the sheer athleticism that he has. And I think he's someone who can be very, very special in the league. But I mean, at this point, if you're picking any one of your top 5 wide receivers, you're probably going to get a guy who can really produce, especially in this offense.
Especially in this offense, like you said, let's bring back another Baylor receiver who didn't see any time after the preseason because of an injury. Jalen Hurd, also out of Baylor. How can he fit in this 49ers system?
So Jalen Hurd is a very interesting person and a piece really in that offense because size-wise, everyone's talked about it. He's a big guy. I believe he's like 6'3". He's built like a running back. I mean, he was a running back. There's been talk about possibly moving him with the tight ends group, which I get. I mean, he's size-wise is close to what you would expect in a smaller tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely try to get him on linebackers and smaller safeties. He doesn't have the breakaway speed, and he does have a bit to learn about route running, but he's a guy who you saw in the preseason last year was able to kind of make some plays because of his size, because of his experience, with carrying the football, and that, experience a lot of wide receivers don't have. And I think if he's healthy, that's a big if because, those types of injuries, it's really hit or miss depending on if he can come back. But if he's back and he can be close to 100%, if not exactly 100%, then that would make the decision a lot easier on draft day. And I think if guys like Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, if they know that they can count on her to be there, well, then I think they end up, not having to worry about the wide receiver position in the first round, second round. They might just wait until the later rounds and find someone that they can probably plug in to do a specific duty, like someone who can go over the top or something like that. I think he's going to be a great complement to someone like Deebo Samuels, because then you have another physical receiver. It'll be interesting, but I mean, if he's healthy, then that wide receiver core immediately jumps up a lot higher than where it was last year.
Why do you think Matt Breida did not see as many carries the second half of the season as he did the first half of the season?
Honestly, I don't think it was much. I mean, I do think part of it was he started having some turnover issues. We saw that towards the latter half of the season. And the way that offense was running, it became, play with the hot hand, especially at the running back position. We saw how good that offensive line was at just opening huge holes there. And I think it just became an issue of Raheem Mostert started getting a lot more carries and getting a lot more playing time because of his explosiveness. And you basically had two players in Mostert and Breida who both have breakaway speed. The only difference was Mostert was showing that he had more versatility and he was more sure-handed with the football. And I think that's what it came down to. I'm a big Matt Breida fan and have been since he was signed as an undrafted free agent.
Same here.
But it's just, yeah, exactly. I mean, the fact he went to one of those schools, the Georgia Southern and everything, that was a huge thing for me. But, someone like Breida, you hope that he gets a chance again, but it just became that running back room is so, honestly, it's so talented that you have to wonder if he's going to enter next season with the possibility of, you're looking at probably Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, and I believe you still have McKinnon there. So then you have 4 or 5 guys who, I mean, maybe Wilson wouldn't be a starter anywhere else, but I mean, you have at least 4 guys who would probably start for just about any other team in the league. Yeah. And you have them battling out, and there's only so many touches you can go around. And I think at the end of last season, it just became right a hot hand. And let's be honest, Mostert was on a tremendous tear. And, I think if he was a guy who got more touches in the Super Bowl game, then we're talking about a different outcome.
Does Mostert start the season as the starting tailback for the 49ers?
I think barring some type of injury, I think he does. It'd be hard to go away from him because of how the end of the season went, the regular season, that game that he had against, basically the last few games he had. And then, of course, the playoff run where he just, he went off. He went crazy. And then you go into just how it was in the Super Bowl. It's hard for anyone to say that he doesn't already deserve the starting job. Now, when it gets into, we learned this past year how quickly things can change for Kyle Shanahan and his coaching staff. I mean, we saw what happened with Dante Pettis, how he went from seemingly being a main focal point, and by about week 4 or 5, he suddenly disappeared. So I think if you can have someone like Mostert basically show up, stay healthy during the preseason, and basically just look like he is taking things seriously like he has been, and, he is basically still producing, I don't see them moving away from him as a starting back. But, I mean, if we've learned anything over the last few years of Kyle Shanahan's offense with the 49ers, it doesn't matter if you're the starting running back. It just matters how much you get used that day, because you could have someone who technically is listed as a starter that day at that particular game, and you have someone else who was listed as a second or third string guy suddenly get hot and they have the most touches. So realistically, I think he's going to be penciled into the starter, but from week to week, I mean, that's obviously just going to change.
Yeah, and the best example of what you just the best example to illustrate what you just talked about is not being penciled in as a starter, but having the biggest contribution. Jeff Wilson, his game-winning catch against Arizona.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at that, I think that was his only play of the entire game.
It was.
I mean, he comes in, they basically run a play specifically designed for him, and it just took care of, the perfect play call on defense for that play, where they basically had, and this is frustrating for me because I covered the Cardinals for a couple of years. I live in Arizona, so I root for them to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'm a 49er fan just like you, so I want the 49ers to do better.
Yes.
But you see someone who is probably one of the best pass rushers in the entire league, and you suddenly keep him to cover a fast running back, and you just had somehow, Jimmy Garoppolo got throw out, and somehow Jeff Wilson saw the ball. So I mean, yeah, stuff like that where you might not get a single snap for 99% of the game, and then you come in with 30 seconds left, and they call a play for you, and you're the main receiver, and you have to deliver. And if you deliver whenever you're called upon, and we've seen it with someone like Raheem Mostert, you're going to get playing time. And that's all that matters, really, with that team. They just want you to do your job, and if you do your job, you'll get on the field.
Ryan Adverderada joining me here, talking all things 49ers. Check him out as he covers the 49ers for FullPressCoverage.com, one of our flagship stations or flagship networks, I beg your pardon, for Snowman in the Morning. A couple other things for you. Do the 49ers need to address their offensive line with the age of Staley and them letting Mike Person go? And you got Weston Richburg coming back from an injury. Will there be any issues going into the draft along the offensive line that they may need to address?
I think the 49ers need to spend a good amount of time on the offensive line in the draft. And obviously, like you said, Joe Staley, we don't know if he's going to really come back next year, because there's obviously a lot of things in the air right now. But, he maybe has another 1 or 2 seasons left, realistically. I mean, as good as he was even last year, and I think a bunch of, different sites will tell you that he was one of the best left tackles while he was healthy, which he was. He was very good. But you can't expect him to play forever, obviously. So you put on maybe a timer of a year to 3 years tops.
Yeah.
And that's if we're being generous. And so that tells you need to replace your left tackle, because I don't foresee them moving McGlinchey over from right tackle to left tackle. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
He's getting too comfortable at right tackle. It's too late for that. I mean, if you're looking at, especially that 31st pick, there's a good chance that you're going to get one of the top 4 or 5 offensive tackles on the board still. If you're lucky, you have one of the top 2 inside offensive linemen available there, whether that's Ruiz, or I want to say I might mispronounce his name, but I believe it's Cushenberry. I'm not sure. I might be mistaken on that one. Yeah, Lloyd Cushenberry. So one of those 2 guys, if they're there, those 2, either Cesar Ruiz or Cushenberry would be good choices to play that right guard role that Mike Person played. Now, they released him because they basically are saying, okay, well, we're going to give this job to Daniel Brunskill as long as he deserves it. That's what they basically decided. They basically said, we're going to go younger. And Brunskill looked amazing last year, in the time he was in there. So I think they could draft, a guard if they really want to shore up that line, for the immediate future, because someone like Ruiz is just going to come in and be a lot better.
Right.
That said, I mean, if they're looking at especially if they're looking at the offensive line, like you said, if they go, outside and go say, hey, let's look at one of the tackles. I mean, I have 4 or 5 guys who are first round worthy. Everyone from, Jedrick Wills from Alabama all the way to someone like Josh Jones from Houston. And you have a bunch of, that's 5 tackles on like I have on a list that has first round potential. And if you get any one of those guys, they could, plug and play, or you could sit them for a year. It's really one of those things where for the offensive line, you're going to want to look, and you got to think the 49ers are looking to repeat and go to the Super Bowl again.
Right.
So do you really want to invest a first round pick on someone who will not play in the first year, barring an injury? And that's kind of what it comes down to. So if they do go into the offensive line, I'm thinking they go with one of the guards, because that's the most, I guess, easiest to pick in terms of who's going to probably play. But that said, I mean, if they can get back into the 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounds, there are guys who could probably come in and, maybe sit for a year, sit for 2 years possibly, and become your replacements. I mean, you always want to pick up offensive linemen, and we saw that last year with Justin Steele. You have guys who you can find in the late rounds of the draft who can come in and be serviceable. So at this point, you don't necessarily need to get a game breaker at left tackle to replace Joe Staley, but if you can get someone late and not have to force your hand in the earlier rounds, I mean, why not?
Yeah, why not? Definitely. Oh, man, Ryan Advertirada joining me here talking all things NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. And I already said we are probably going to make plans for Tampa. We'll see how this season goes. I'd love to have you on each week, man, to talk all things 49ers. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, just it's going to be whenever the season starts, and hopefully it does start relatively soon. I can't wait, honestly.
Me neither.
All of this draft stuff is fun, but I mean, getting to finally see what happens with, and figure out, okay, are we making, wise prognostications here? I mean,
right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to possibly finding my way into Tampa next year.
Same here. And if it happens, I will find you and I will join you in the press box in Tampa. Ryan Advertirada joining me here on the program. Thanks a lot, my friend. I truly appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
More stuff for you in a deuce.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair.
He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
And that's hit pretty well and pretty deep to left. Gardner is going back, looking up. See you later!
You golden blank staggered black skeleton of blinkety black punk are you trying to do? Of all that low dirty...
Michael on the drive across the lane. Turnaround shot. Got it. 63 for Jordan.
Do you believe it? Murphy picked out of midair to Amani. Set him up. Roenick. Hartland! 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 Jeremy Roenick! After the giveaway was forced by Amani. What a play by Tony Amani. And Jeremy Roenick fired it home at the 123 mark. And the Blackhawks have come back from the dead in this series.
Hour 3. We are rolling right along here on the program. Thank y'all for joining us. So I'm going to go off the board a little bit. I had a very wonderful guest and her daughter joined me for a team interview. And I said, well, when can I get you back on the show? And she says, I'm ready anytime you want. Who do you want to join me this time? So, of course, me being who I am, I said, bring your husband. Let's really get down to some business. Shirley Walker King and her husband Vince are now here. How are you guys?
Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fabulous. It's great to have you guys on, and I'll tell you what, you guys talking marriage in a podcast? Sign me up, please.
We can do that.
That's the least we can do. I mean, we haven't stayed married this long not to be able to talk about it.
So true. So many of my friends followed when I got married last June, and it's been, I got to be honest, part of it's been a struggle because we're just getting used to North Carolina, but outside of that, I can't do anything without my Dr. K next to me. I mean, it's a team effort. It truly is.
That's right. And that's what I always tell folks. I mean, it's like it's a business. You know what I mean? Being in the marriage is a business. So you always have to consult with your partner pretty much on things that you do, and sometimes, we got married a lot at a young age. So, at that time it was guys making fun of you. Being 22, 23 years old, of course, Vincent can't do this, can't do that.
Right.
But I always kind of consulted with my wife with things. So I, kind of didn't care about that. And not to just say everything was smooth. Of course, we had our ups and downs, but I kind of got it after a minute of a couple bumps upside the head. I got it.
Nothing that left a permanent mark. He's okay, folks. He's okay. Okay.
Figuratively speaking, okay?
I understand.
And I think there's a statute of limitation. He can't press charges now anyway.
Because A, y'all have been married too long, and B, there are kids that are turn up as witnesses and say, look, he did this and I can prove it. And I mean this jokingly, of course, being not only a husband but also a parent, but your kids will look at you and look at the husband and say, yep, he did it. And running joke that my wife and I do all the time. And you got to have humor in a marriage. You absolutely have to. So one of the running jokes that my wife and I do, and we do it all the time, if something happens where she drops something or something accidentally breaks, she'll just walk by me and said, it's your fault, right? And that's been our running joke for the 2 years we've been together.
Yeah. Well, that's just something us men have to deal with. Okay, I get that too. It's my fault. And, my daughter and wife will look at each other and like shrug their shoulders like, what? Yeah, it's your fault. Okay.
We have that thing that we women can always go to default on and say, hey, you're the man of the house. It's your fault.
It's so true. Like I said, my wife teases me all the time with it. And, something will happen in the house. I could be, and Vince, I know you've gone through this. I could be on the other side of the house doing something completely different. And, my Dr. K will just walk by me and she'll show me, something she dropped and she just goes, this is your fault, right? And my brain's thinking, how? I'm on the other side of the house. Now I just look at her and go, I didn't do this one. She says, yes, you did. And I can prove it. I said, all right, prove it. And then she'll go, I don't have to prove it. And we'll both just start laughing.
Hey, like you said, you have to keep the humor.
You have to.
You definitely have to laugh, especially in these times. So, we just find any little thing and we can kind of laugh at it and keep the peace.
She's also my producer. She just yelled in my ear. She goes, I'm always right and you're always wrong. And I'm sitting there laughing about it because again, and it brings up a very important point that we talk about all the time. You have to keep the humor in the relationship. You absolutely have to, because if you don't, the relationship will erode very quickly.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things I think that people struggle with the most when they go into a relationship is at the beginning is because you're two separate individual people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to learn how to merge your relationship into one.
Mm-hmm.
And as an individual, we always want to be what? We always want to be right.
Right.
No matter what, you want to be the one who's the last woman or man standing. You want to be the one who was right. You want to be the one who knew the most.
Mm-hmm.
And in a relationship, and this goes more for the women than the men, sometimes I have to tell them, you have to decide, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Yeah, and
pick one.
I decided.
Pick your battles.
Yeah, I decided I want to be happy, and after I met my Dr. K, I have been truly happy for the 2 years we've been together and the almost a year that we've been married. And it's not just about sense of humor; it's about a very simple / complex / most important thing in a relationship. A little word we like to call communication.
That's it. Communication, that's key.
It is key because she and I talk about everything, and people think I exaggerate when I say this. I'm not exaggerating. We talk and discuss everything. We talk everything out, and you have to talk everything out with your partner, because if you can't talk everything out with your partner, then who the hell are you going to talk it out to? It just doesn't fit.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah, that works. Like, if you can't say that your partner is your best friend, and in the sense of not if that's the person that you're going to go get your hands and nails and everything done with, but if you can't say your partner is the best friend, then your relationship is not at a point where it should have been a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That is so true, because if you can't talk everything out, then there's your first problem. I've had people ask me all the time, how can you guys, even for the short time that you guys have been together, how can you guys smile most of the time? I said, I talk to her about everything, and I trust her enough, and vice versa. And she trusts me enough to, lean on each other. The biggest thing is with the communication, you also lean on each other. Good times, bad times, whatever time it is. When you have that, you have a very solid foundation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And like I said, you know your partner. You kind of get a vibe from them. If something, they don't even have to say it. You just know something's not right. You know what I mean? So I think that's a big thing. I can just tell when something's bothering her, and sometimes she'll need a minute to, for whatever it might be. But I just know. And then we'll kind of hash it out, and she'll let me in on what's going on. But you just know your partner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, that's it. You just know your partner.
It's so true when they need to talk to you. And something that I have been taught by my wife, she says it all the time. She says, sometimes I don't need you to fix anything. Sometimes I just need you to listen. And that was one of the most important things I had to learn with her. That's one of the most important things that I had to learn, because as men in this society, we're taught and it's ingrained in us, okay, something's wrong with your partner, you have to fix it. No, sometimes they just need to get some stuff off their chest and you just need to listen. That's a part I'm still learning, and I've gotten better at it. Will I ever be perfect at it? No, and I don't want to be. But when I get the clue and I see the look in her eyes, okay, I'm just going to shut up and I'm going to let her talk.
Yeah, we did a post. When was that? Wednesday last week.
Yeah.
And that's our number 10 was listen more and talk less.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we talked about. Sometimes your partner don't want you to say a word. Just listen. They'll let you know if they want you to chime in, but just be quiet and listen.
Was it tough when you guys got together at such a young age to really, really trust each other with decisions? I mean, how tough was it for you guys to trust each other with decisions and start making them together?
Ooh, I'm gonna.
I wouldn't say it was tough for me coming from a 2-parent household. For me, it wasn't tough because I saw how my mother handled her marriages, and I'll put Jiz because she's been married more than once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, I think 5.
Like Elizabeth Taylor, Taylor-ish.
Shirley Ann Jackson Coleman, Locke Johnson Sherwood knows how to get married. Y'all not gonna talk about my mother. But the one thing that my mother did instill in me was marriage was important. And yes, she was a strong, independent woman, but she also showed me that a strong, independent woman also needs a man to support her and be with her at all times. She needs that. That's what God intended this world and this relationship how to work.
Absolutely.
So man needs woman, woman needs man. So I did learn that from my mother, and I also learned how to share in decision making with my spouse because of how I saw my mother operate. And it was a challenge in the beginning because you are so independent. When I met my husband, we met in California, technically Tijuana partying, but that's a whole nother story. So we'll just skip the over the border part. We'll just talk about stateside part for now. So we met, like you said, young. I was already independent and had been living on my own since I was 18 because my mother left California, moved back to Texas the month I graduated high school. So I was living on my own. I worked for a prison system, so I knew what I wanted, how I wanted, what I wanted to do, and I knew what I didn't want. So when I finally met Vince, and I think I had been in a couple of relationships where I was like, look, I have to be able to let my guard down, and I'm still working on that, but to be able to trust somebody and allow them to help lead my direction. And for Vincent being in the military, and Vincent is an only child born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, raised by a strong, independent woman who didn't play at either. I think he was able to learn how to work around my rough edges and not do that I am man beat on my chest thing, like woman, listen to me. I think he knew early on that wasn't going to be the way that he was going to get to my heart or allow me to let down my walls. So as we dated a little longer and, we found out we were going to be expecting a baby and I didn't have the flu. Because I tell you, Corona was around in 1992. So just to tell you guys. I had all the symptoms.
Hey, being from Chicago, there is truth to every part of that sentence.
Right.
That's correct.
So yeah, it was I think a little easier for me, and I'll let Vincent speak on that, because he was an only child. I think once he realized he had someone else depending on him making the best decisions, I think that's where he had to kind of pull in from his lifestyle and upbringing. How do we do this, and how do we do this together?
Yeah, and like I said, us being young, military, so kind of, and we talk about this and laugh about it now. She would always say, like, her strategy was, and we would go on deployments. We would have to literally leave for 6 months. And then when we came back stateside, of course, all the fellas want to hang out. So what she would always do was, okay, everybody come over here. They'll always know the King's house. So we would always cook out. So I wouldn't really want to go out and hang out with the guys. So I can just bring everybody over. We cook out, and just everybody knew the Kings. They can come and get fed well. So that was like her little strategy, and she kind of put me onto that later. I'm like, you know what? That was pretty good. that worked out. That kept me from wanting to hang out. And, at 22 years old, we just bring everybody over. A lot of single people on the ships, and we would always cook and kind of like we had the place where everybody wanted to come and kind of away from home, and they got home cooked meals and things of that sort.
Shirley Walker.
But it was a little more difficult for me, like you said, adjusting, just being the only child. So it was more difficult for me to adjust, I would say.
Shirley Walker King and Vince King joining me, talking all parts of marriage, good, bad, ugly, whatever. I got so many questions in my head, and as I said, I will be in June entering my second year of marriage. Y'all have been doing this a long time. I gotta pose this, and this is for both of you. When did you know that Vince to Shirley? When did you know that she would be the one for you? How did you? What was the bell that went off and said, "Okay, she's going to be here, and she's going to be around for me, and she's going to support me"? When did you know that she was the one?
That's for me, to Shirley. Mm-hmm. For me, oh wow, man! And that's funny because I always told myself that I wasn't doing this, especially when I was in the military. Right. And that was literally my first duty station. So I didn't even make it to the second duty station. So I don't know what I was thinking. So I guess God said, I have other plans for you, sir.
Yes.
But I don't know. I guess just us hanging out and talking and we used to go out to parties and see each other, and we would always just meet up, and it's just something when they say you know.
Yeah.
And I just knew if I was to leave California, it just didn't feel right. I just knew it was her. It's just funny. It just seems like I just knew. I just knew from just conversations. I just knew she was going to be the one that I really wanted to be with.
Shirley, same question to you. How'd you know Vince was the one?
For me, I think, and both of us were in that same boat where we both were kind of dating and young, and I'd always pictured myself with children, but it's ironic that I had never really pictured a husband.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't grow up thinking of the ideal wedding, of, planning a wedding and walking down the aisle and picking out a wedding dress. I didn't do that. And it's not that I wasn't a girly girl, because I was. Although I played basketball, I was the girl who went to the game dressed up. So it wasn't that, because some people try and say that, if you're a tomboy, you don't really think about that stuff. But I wasn't a tomboy as much as I was just, an active girl. But I didn't picture marriage per se. But for Vincent, he was different for me. And, like I said, I grew up in San Diego, California, so I had been dating since I probably was 16, dating guys, whether my mom knew about it or not. But I think one of the first, when we met, Vincent said he saw me first. Vincent saw me before I saw him. Let me give a little background. But his friend approached me before he did. And so that whole weekend in California, if anybody's from California, they know you can party from Sunday to Sunday. They were having an event that next day, and we all went to a beach party, and, his friend was still trying to talk to me and wanted to give me his jacket so that I wouldn't be cold. And I was like, no, I don't want your jacket. For one, I don't want you branding me. There's too many ouches out here. Hold on now. But Vincent and I really didn't connect until that night, I think, when we went out to a club. And so we were talking, and I just liked the way that he had a conversation with you. Mm-hmm. He actually wanted to get to know you. It wasn't just about collecting phone numbers and, just trying to see whose pants he can get in. And if it was, his game wasn't obvious. I'll put it that way. And as he mentioned, he was in the military, so they had to go out to sea for 30 days, like maybe 2 weeks after we met.
Yeah.
And then Vincent actually got in trouble maybe right after you guys come back from that deployment. So this was within like the 60 days, within 90 days, I didn't see him for at least 60. But Vincent, and he didn't know where I lived, but he somehow got my address, and this was before social media and internet.
Yeah.
And he sent me a card from home because he had to go home for an emergency leave for something. And that's when I was like, okay, he is definitely something different and something new. And I just knew he was special. Yeah. Didn't necessarily know he was going to be the one, but I knew he was special.
I tell you what, with me, when I met Jody, we met in July of 2018, and I was a month away from beginning my new broadcast season. And it took till week 3 of that season. It was a Saturday afternoon when I called her, and I heard I was in the booth doing a football game. And I said, you know what? I'm going to have a little fun. Now, folks, this is one of the few times I will share this. And guys will be inventive to a point. And I said, I've never made a first call to a young lady I was interested in while on the air. I told myself, and Vince, you identify, you keep telling yourself, guys keep telling themselves, I'm not going to do this. I looked at her number and I said, screw it. I dialed her number, opened the phone, and I put it in my headset, and then I heard her voice. I finished 2 play-by-play sequences, and I heard her laugh. And it's the strangest thing. When I heard her laugh, my stomach did a flip-flop because there were butterflies in it, and I said, oh, yeah, this is it. So I went to a break, and she just said, wow, I never had a call like this. And I said, me neither, but I love your voice and I love listening to you. And we haven't stopped talking for almost 2 years.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. You just knew it.
I knew it.
You got that feeling.
I absolutely knew it, especially when she started coming to games with me. And she said, I want to be in the booth with you. So week 7, I was at Portage. And it always it's a cliche to a lot of people, but this is true to guys like Vince and myself. You can pick your partner out of a crowd, and there was a big crowd coming to Portage, and I saw Dr. K walk in, and I said, "Okay, the world's right now. She's here. I can put this headset on, and I can roll through this broadcast because my pillar of support and the love of my life just walked in the house." And I was good.
Right. Well, you know what? And I'm a little slower than she is. I did just have a birthday on the 6th.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. And, actually, you know what? Excuse me. One of the main things I laugh about is, well, I think I would say, and I did say I just knew. Well, I think it was a time we went out when we were dating. And when the bill came, she paid for the plate. I said, oh, my God. Because, it's just automatic. The guy pays. And when you're married, it's different. It doesn't matter, man. It's the same card. Hey,
it is.
That was like that was a big deal. I was like, wow, she paid, paid for the plate.
Yeah.
So that just took it to another level.
And I remember that because I remember you asking me, well, why are you paying for it? And I said, because I asked you to go out to the movies on this round. And I think it was dinner. I said, if I asked you to go out, then I should be able to pay for it. And so I remember having that conversation. He was like, I don't think I've ever had anybody pay for a date.
Right.
And I was like, well, I don't think you've ever dated anybody like me.
I tell you what, one of the weeks where we drove from Terre Haute to Michigan City, she finds things that just make me smile. And it was October. It was toward the end of the regular season. And she said, stop by Walgreens. I want to find something for you. I said, okay. So we stopped by Walgreens. She got some snacks for me. She got me a couple bottles of water, and she knows how much water I drink, especially when I'm on the air. So she comes out with a couple bottles of water, and I reach into the bag from Walgreens, and there, I swear to God, was football candy corn. There were different kinds of candy corn in football shapes. And I said, where'd you find this? She says, I found it in Walgreens. Let's go to the ball game, and watch Michigan City win. I said, she found this for me. Now,
the
little things mean the largest things to me. Now, I will tell this funny story. The first time I attempted, and I strongly stress the word attempted, to drive from Michigan City to Terre Haute, I was in Maryville, and I did a game in Maryville, and I had no water. They had nothing but caffeine in the form of Pepsi. And I said, now what do I do? If I drink more than one Pepsi, I am in serious trouble. I said, the heck with it. So, yeah, Michigan City scored 42 points, and they won the game, and I'm working off of 5 or 6 Pepsis. And she picked me up, and she said, why don't you drive back to Terre Haute? Yeah, I didn't make it far. She even went. We even stopped at a store and said, do you need some sugar for the ride? Because it's about a 3-hour drive. I said, yeah. So she brings out some Reese's sticks, and I still didn't make it. I don't think I made it a good 10 miles before my body said, we're done. We're shutting down, whether you like it or not. And she saw it. She says, come over here. You'll get some sleep, and I'll drive back to Terre Haute. And we've been sharing driving duties since. And she knows me so very well. And I find it wonderful that she takes care of me just as much as I take care of her. That's like one of the sweetest things. In my eyes, that's one of the sweetest things.
And that's what a relationship is about, whether you're at the point of marriage or not. But once you're into a relationship that you know is going to go somewhere, that's what you want to do. You want to take care of your partner.
Yes.
That's what makes a relationship work, is he wants what's best for me just as much as I want what's best for me, and I want what's best for him just as much as he wants what's best for him. I'll put his needs before mine, and he'll put my needs before his.
Right.
That's a marriage.
That's absolutely a marriage. She looked me in the eye and said, I want you to chase your dreams as a broadcaster. But then when she found out and figured out what she really wanted to do, which was be a health coach, be a life coach rather, and she looked at me and we talked about it, and she says, what do you think? I really want to do this. I said, dive in and go for it. So that's right. That's just natural. That's just so natural. And she said to me so many times, I've never had anybody support me like this. I said, you don't have to ask twice. If you found something you love to do, dive in head first and go for it.
And that's what makes a marriage work. You put the needs of your spouse before yours. Of course, in a healthy relationship. Don't get it
twisted. Very healthy relationship.
When it's a mutual, healthy relationship, you want what's best for your partner just as much or more than they do.
Exactly. And that's exactly it. I got to have these two on again, and I'd love to have you guys so we can do an episode of Snowman Unfiltered where we go longer than this, but we're coming up against the break. That's Shirley Walker King and her husband Vince King talking all things marriage. And folks, this may be a sports show, but I sneak in little stuff like this to help the show go along. Thank you both for joining me. I'd love to have you back on for a longer episode, and I truly mean that.
Oh yeah, we're down for that. And remember, this is still sports because this is a sports marriage. You know, both of us are former basketball players. Don't get it twisted again.
Right?
She's semi-pro. You know, I played in the military, but she's semi-pro. So, hey.
I love it.
But anytime.
Thank you both so much for coming on. We got a break. I will talk to y'all in a deuce.
Snowman in the morning.
I did not need to be told that.
Where true sports talk lives.
Excellent.
Can't wait. Sharif Ahmed has returned, and let's just go ahead and put something out there and continue to put something out there that people are not going to believe. Whenever the NBA does return and they go through the process of crowning a champion, which I believe will happen, it'll be in a weird circumstance, but I believe it will happen, and it ain't going to be the Lakers, folks. And part of me thinks it ain't going to be the Bucks either. The biggest free agent that's going to be out there late summer is not going to be who you think it is. The biggest free agent out there once again, is going to be Anthony Davis.
Yes, absolutely. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, because I think we had talked about this before. He's going to turn down that $28 million from the Lakers.
Mm-hmm. There was an article that was put out there that AD sold his home in Los Angeles, which feeds into my theory. And you were the first to comment on it when I put it out there. When I put that article out there on Facebook, I beg your pardon. You were the first one to jump on it. And I believe this until I see differently. AD's going home.
Yes, I agree with you on that. He is going home. And the thing is that he's going to go home, and he's going to be surrounded with a young nucleus of players.
Mm-hmm.
The Bulls are going to have a lot of capital, when they sign Davis. They're still going to have some wiggle room for some salary money or some salaries.
Yep.
And they got a couple veterans on the roster. I think Thaddeus Young is still on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
He's a $13 to $15 million body.
Yep.
He could give you double digits off the bench, and he could trade him to a contender, and you can move around pieces like that back and forth.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what's going to end up happening.
And Otto Porter's out of there. I will tell you right now, the one move the Bulls are going to make that'll open up a lot of room, Otto Porter is finished in Chicago. He's done.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe they were giving him 25, 26 a year. The guy couldn't stay healthy at all.
No, he could not stay on the floor. This is what I believe it's going to happen. To clear up room for AD, Otto Porter is going to be jettisoned. You jettison Otto Porter, you keep marketing, you keep Carter. Okay, Thaddeus Young is on the roster. You can keep Thaddeus Young around for a while just so you get Davis in and you get him signed to a multi-year deal, and then Thaddeus Young is out. You got the pieces there. The Bulls have the pieces there. Laurie Markkinen, Wendell Carter Jr., the future of the Bulls, I believe, aside of Anthony Davis, the future of the Bulls, Kobe White.
Yeah, exactly. And then what they can do, they got a new GM. If if they're still in the playoff contention or if they're in the playoff race, they can get a couple of mid-level guys to come in and plug in some needed holes.
Yep.
Get some veterans get some decent veterans out there to make a nice push with the Bulls.
Oh yeah.
And who knows what can happen. And the Eastern Conference is up for grabs next year because there's going to be a lot of moving around with the in the Eastern Conference as well.
Why don't people believe? I want to get your thoughts on this. Why don't people believe when I say, and you say, and a few others agree that Anthony Davis is going home next year? Why don't people believe that, especially in Laker country? Why don't people believe Anthony Davis is going to be the top free agent again?
Well, the reason is because of this. It's because the Lakers are successful now. And they see LeBron and Anthony Davis on the floor. They see LeBron and Anthony Davis winning games. And then they have this championship feeling that they're going to get another trophy with the Lakers. So they're thinking that if the Lakers win the championship, that Anthony Davis is going to stay. And what I tell these LeBron-maniacs is this: okay, look at the roster that you have right now.
Right.
If one of these guys they're saying, oh my gosh, load management. LeBron is not load managing because he's playing every single game. Okay. The reason is because is that your bench is not good.
Their bench is as thin as ice.
The bench is not good. Anthony Davis can't stay healthy for more than 61 or 62 plus games a year on average.
Yep.
So you load manage Anthony Davis, LeBron has to play. If you load manage LeBron, Anthony Davis will play in fear that he might get hurt.
Right.
The only knock I have on Anthony Davis is that I will never forget the start of the season. This guy was already on an injury report.
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah.
How can you be on an injury report if you're preparing for a season and not practice? What is this? How can you have a sore ankle or a sore knee, and you guys take time off. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. The health of the NBA is at risk, as far as I'm concerned, and it's been
There's
at
not
risk.
many players.
It's been at risk since LeBron came in the league in 2003. Oops, did I put that out there?
Listen, I'm going to tell you this: when LeBron came in the league, that 2003 draft class was like an injection of adrenaline to the league.
Yes.
You had LeBron, Carmelo, Bosh, Wade. I mean, I can continue. On and on with that draft. I think David West was in that draft. He had a decent career. I mean, it was just an injection of this new blood into the league. And I like LeBron in the beginning. I ain't going to sit here and lie, and I've said this 1,000 times.
Right.
It's just but when he conducted himself the way he did in going to Miami, I thought it was full of crap. But anyway, that was the injection that the league needed.
Yeah.
So then everybody jumps on that LeBron train now, and then they haven't got off it yet. I got off of it a long time ago.
Yeah, same here.
But to go back with the Anthony Davis thing, he goes home. He's surrounded by a young talent, good young talent. They bring in a brand new GM. I don't know. I forgot his name, but he came from the Nuggets organization. And look how Denver looks now.
Arturas Karstanovas is the new GM
from Denver.
Yep.
And look what he helped put together. Denver is, I think, right now a 3 seed or a 4 seed in the West right now.
Yep.
No, they're a 3 seed because they would play the Rockets at 6. Yes.
Right.
You have a 3 seed. You have a 3 seed right now, and all those guys are young, with the exception of Millsap. Millsap's probably is one of the veterans, older veterans on the team. If he could duplicate that in Chicago and build around Davis, you got Markkanen on one side, you got Wendell Carter on the other side, you got Kobe. I can't think of his last name. Kobe White is your point guard. Then you can bring in other players to surround him with that. Oh my goodness! Can you imagine? Oh, that Saransky. What's his name? Thomas
Satoransky.
Satoransky. You have 2 point guards on the floor, and I don't know if Chris Dunn is still on the team. Is he still on the team?
Yes.
He comes off the bench. I mean, watch out. We might have a running of the Bulls part due.
Yeah. And I see it. And I'll tell you a team that is going to take a nosedive next year, even though they're supposed to be fully healthy. That team is Brooklyn. And I have quite a few reasons I believe they're going to take a nosedive. Yes, Kevin Durant will be physically healthy. Yes, Kyrie Irving supposedly will be physically healthy. I have 2 major questions. Number 1, can you trust Kyrie Irving to help lead a team? Number 2, can you trust Kyrie Irving to work with Kevin Durant and vice versa? And my answer to both of those questions is no.
We touched on this before, and what we discussed was there has to be a coach in place in that locker room,
yes,
to handle those entities in there, because we all know Kyrie Irving is toxic. We know that Kevin Durant can be toxic, but there needs to be some type of a coach that has structure, that brings in the structure, that has pedigree, that has the kind of attitude that can tell you what they can and cannot do. And when they look at these coaches, they have no choice but to respect them. We've discussed the 3 names, and I will pray that one of these coaches get that job. It's David Fizdale, JV Bickerstaff, and the third one, as we said, it was Tyronn Lue.
Tyronn Lue, yeah.
Those are the only 3 coaches that can go into that job and handle what they need to handle, be competitive, and they can probably make a run at the champ, or at least the Eastern Conference. But if they don't pick one of those coaches, then yes, I will agree with what your point is about the Brooklyn Nets. But if one of those coaches comes in there, it's over.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that with the Nets. They need a coach that will provide a lot of structure for that team. Yeah, they already, thinking about it, they already had that coach. His name was Kenny Atkinson. But then Kevin Durant got an attitude, and Kyrie Irving got an attitude, and Atkinson was out of there. And my thoughts are these. Kevin Durant is becoming toxic in Brooklyn because Kyrie's there. He's getting in his head. And am I defending Kevin Durant? To a point, I am. He hasn't played since the World Championship Series last June. I don't think he's going to play for another year, or at least another 6 months. The most toxic piece right now is Kyrie Irving. Those two started getting Kenny Atkinson out of there. And wherever Atkinson lands, that team is going to make a run at a playoff spot. But with those three names that you threw out there, and I'll ask this question again, of David Fizdale, Tyronn Lue, and J.B. Bickerstaff, who is the most likely coach to get that position and turn that franchise around?
Oof. I think we went. I'm going to say from 1 to 3, it would be Lou, just due to the fact that he won a championship with Kyrie.
True.
Fizdale has been on championship teams as an assistant coach and was very influential in the 2 Heat championships. And Bickerstaff is one of the greatest fixers. One of the greatest fixers of teams, and
right.
Nobody wants to give this man a contract beyond as an interim coach. But Bickerstaff has pedigree as well, so I would go at that order: Lou, Fizdale, and Bickerstaff.
One of those three needs to be coaching that team, and those 3 coaches need to be in the league. They need to be sitting at the head of a bench or walking the bench, coaching a team. Oh well, let's just put it out there. All 3 need to be in the league with the pedigrees that they have. All 3 need to be in the league. I believe Lou just got ruined by LeBron. He has won a championship with Kyrie Irving. He's been to World Championship Series before, 4 of them. 1-1. That was 2016. 3 of them, I should say. That was 2016. Lou got ruined by LeBron's attitude. And then the Laker coaching position came up, and Lou wasn't having it because LeBron was there. I don't blame him. Now with LeBron being minus Kyrie, I think Lou would be a good fit in Brooklyn.
And it's really good that you touched on that. One of the 2 reasons why Lou did not take that job, it wasn't the LeBron. To me, it wasn't the LeBron factor. One, the Lakers hired Jason Kidd as an assistant coach already. Jason Kidd was employed by the Lakers before Lou was even thought of.
Yep.
Secondly, why are you going to give a coach a 2-year contract? That makes no sense.
Yeah, no sense whatsoever. None.
So if I was the owner of a team and I hire you as a coach, you have your own assistant coaches, you have your trainers, you have everything. People that you know that have been working with you is going to come with you to this team. Mm-hmm. But how are you going to have an assistant coach in Jason Kidd that's already there, and now you're going to have Tyronn Lue come up in here and have Kidd as his assistant, and even though Lue don't want him,
right?
Nah, bro. Tyronn Lue, and then guess where Tyronn Lue is now? He's an assistant coach with the Clippers. Am I right with that?
Yes.
I mean, that organization is the Laker organization is absolutely upside down right now.
And here's the other point that I want to make, and we'll close with this. The other point is this: Frank Vogel is a sitting duck. If he doesn't win a title this year, Frank Vogel is a sitting duck, which is why Jason Kidd is second in command. Because if things go upside down for the Lakers yet again, you usher out Frank Vogel, saying it was an experiment that wouldn't work, and you move up Jason Kidd.
What I don't get is that you're going from worse to worse. Jason Kidd was the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. The foundation of that team is still there, and you couldn't win with that?
Nope.
And now you're going to think he's going to do the same crap with the Lakers? Get out of here, man.
I don't get it either.
It makes no sense, man. It's just, I don't know.
It makes no sense. It's like you said, it makes no sense. It really doesn't.
You put facts out there, and these people and these fans of him don't want to read the facts. They just want to read his facts, and no matter what his facts are, they like to throw those facts out there.
Mm-hmm.
But then you bring in the reality of it all, but they don't want to believe that reality. I don't get it, man.
It's like my wife says all the time. It's called sometimers. Sometimes they want to believe, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they want to look, sometimes they don't. I mean, it's a joke between she and I, but it actually applies in this case. This man, Sharif Ahmed, he's going to be back with me to talk all things NFL draft, as the NFL draft is this Thursday. We're going to see how we match up against the folks that did their mock drafts, and their final versions are coming out like haywire. Man, it's always good to have you on. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Stay safe, B.
Until tomorrow, have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move. And always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, then they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. I am, and I hope y'all are too. And a big announcement will come your way May 1st. Till then, Snowman's out of here.